Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to have Mrs. Showemimo. She's the founder of Okwe Farms. I know she's going to talk a little bit more about the Okwe Farm, so some of what they have in stock and how we can all join hands together and things, a lot of things also in plants. But to give people a little bit context, we started Organic Farming Masterclass earlier this year, a couple of months ago. We are currently in the second cohort of it. It's a combination of many things, a lot of free webinars like this that look into topical issues that any successful farmer really want to learn. But there is also a lot of other things within the Organic Farming Masterclass that include assignment, projects, looking at your farm and how do you get your farm certificate, what kind of information do you need to get your farm certified? More or less, more one-on-one with more one-on-one interaction with experts. I'll share more information about that at the end for people that might also want to be part of the next cohort, which we're actually opening up right now. We'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. But today it's part of the live class that we're making open to people from all walks of life. And like I mentioned earlier on, having Mrs. Olushola Showemimo, it's a big blessing and honor to all of us. So we really appreciate having you here, Ma. How are you doing today, Ma?
Very well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so we all have our pen, our notes to really learn about strategies to running a successful organic farm. This is something you've been doing for a while, and so I'm just looking forward to. I will just hand over everything to you to take over from there. And
okay,
so I go back to my.
Would you be changing the slides for me?
Yes, I could. Yes.
Okay. Yes, that would be lovely, so that my hands can be a bit free.
That's okay, Smart.
Yes. Okay. So good evening, everyone. For those who have made the effort to be here, I think we're about 29 of us. So there's no point keeping you waiting for others. And like the admin said, the recording will be available at some point in time. So let's just get on with it. First, I would like to thank Farmwella very much for organizing these master classes. I always tell my story, and part of my main setback was not having adequate information. Everybody I knew was farming conventionally. In fact, I had people who, once I start talking about farming, or they get up. It actually happened once. I was talking about, and the guy just, I'm telling you, one-on-one conversation, he just got up. I thought, did I say something wrong? There were people who just couldn't come to terms with the fact that I wanted to farm without the use of the normal inputs and all. I had the people who even told me that I was going to fail. I mean, I have people who said, you know what, in Nigeria, you can't do it. It's going to fail. You will lose money. Oh, yes, they were right. I did lose money. In fact, sometimes I smile at myself that if I have the money I lost then, I probably would even have gone much further by now. But I am happy that I stuck to my why, because having my why was a key thing for me. If I had myself at the time I started, then in fact, by now, as Nigeria will say, I will have blown. But thank goodness, that knowledge is the knowledge that I had to gain is not a waste. I had actually started documenting my experiences and all. I said, oh, I'm going to make it into like an e-course for people. I mean, the forum now where they will call me and say, oh, they want me to come and teach them how to grow cucumber and things. I said, no, you don't need me for such things. With the experience I've gained, you need me to come and share with you strategies. People think agric is just farming. Agric is like any other business. All the knowledge that you would apply to the businesses, the other businesses you run, you also need them for agriculture. So I'm glad to be here, and I will be sharing quite enough with you. My prayer is that even if it is 5% of those who come today who take away enough to establish and not make those mistakes that people like me made, then my being here today would have been well worth it. So I'm hopeful that quite a number of people will take enough away. So let's have an icebreaker. And this will continue as people come in. I would announce it from time to time. If you have not started growing or farming, please put number one in the chat box. If you have started growing or farming in the last 1 to 1.5 years, please put 2 in the chat box. If you have started growing or farming in the last 3 to 3.5 years, please put 3. If you fall in between these 3, just take the one that is closest to what you're doing. So if you've been farming for 4 years and you're here, then you can put 3. But if you have been farming for 5 years, please just tag along with us, because my delivery is primarily for those who are just starting. They're the ones who I feel are more precocious. They're the ones who today they will hear of something, they're confused. Tomorrow they hear of another thing, they want to do it. You know, farmers are almost like always perpetually in a toy store. You see something growing somewhere, you must have the seed. It's okay, you must have the seed, take it. But hey, don't because of that go and uproot everything on your farm saying that, oh, I just learned that so and so made ₦1 million from doing 1 acre of cucumbers or something. I mean, before you fall into those traps, please, you need to do a self-assessment. So we're going to go on. Thank you. Yes, as we come in, I would announce it that people should do that, so we have an idea of who and who are here. And by the way, all the photos you see on this slide presentation are from Okwe Farms, except just one photo. If anybody is able to guess that one photo right, then you have a gift from Okwe Farms. So first of all, let me tell you, these tomatoes, the sweet corn, everything in this photo comes from Okwe Farms. Thank you. So let's move on, Doc. So the objective of this presentation is that you will at least learn about 5 strategies for your organic crop production. I did not include poultry for a reason. It is, you need to separate both. They don't fall into the same category. And I know that as you go through your masterclass, you're going to have much more robust information on livestock. And I'm not teaching you how to actually do these things. It's just the strategies we're talking about. And then it is my hope that you will be able to learn at least 4 mistakes that will enable you to make profit in the business. So, like I said, have your pen and paper with you, because there is a lot to write down. I am not a slide, I don't read my slides. I have almost everything I want to tell you is in my brain. So I can't put it in slide form. So just be ready to jot down. And if there is anything you missed that you would like me to go back to when we finish, then please do so. I would gladly go back. So let's move on. I'm issuing a disclaimer here. Now, I will tell you all you need to know, but your ability to retain it and use it is left to you. It's like these seedlings. We did these seedlings on the farm at a time. If I asked all of you to guess how the percentage that germinated, I'm going to have various figures. I probably would even get 100%. Some might even say 0%. So your ability to take away from this particular session, it's solely in your hands. It's solely in your hands. I am going to give it, and these are from my personal experience. Everything I'm telling you today is not from a book. It is from the experience that I have had. I could read up a book, but these are purely mine. So it is for you to take as much as you can from the session. So the content, there's a lot for us to handle. The content, we have done the icebreaker. That's where I said you should put 1, 2, or 3. And then you're going to meet me, your facilitator at this session. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm not going to tell you too long. We don't really need it. All we need now is the knowledge. I'll do an introduction of the session, and then we're going to do a SWOT analysis together. Then I'll share with you my mistakes. As my husband always tells me, they're not my mistakes. They are my learning points. But because of this particular session is why I'm using the word my mistakes, because genuinely, I didn't know at that time. So I made those mistakes. And then of course, I'll share with you my wins, those things that, made it easier for me, so to say. And then some of the lessons learned, the strategies. I don't know how my mistake came up twice, but it must show you that it's very important. And then your own personal commitment. That is where we're going to end, your personal commitment. So, meet me, your facilitator. By the way, this is now one of my favorite photographs. And guess what? I took this year. Everybody sees it and they're like, oh, you look much younger. I said, that's a compliment, because this was my 61st birthday photograph. So my brief background, I grew up with, my grandfather was a farmer, and he was a very wealthy farmer. I mean, in those days, I don't know how people associate being poor with being a farmer. My grandfather had the only bicycle in the community. He was a silver one. And anytime he was riding out, the children will come out and they'll start, looking at his bicycle. In fact, when he's washing the bicycle, it would be shining by the time he's finished. So for me, I never even associated, being poor with being a farmer and all of that. I just thought, you must make money from anything that you did anyway. So my mom picked up that idea of growing some things, picked it up from my grandfather. So anytime we visited my grandfather would not only load the boot of the car with fresh produce, he would always have seeds for my mom to take with her. And my mom would get home. I was probably the only one. Even some of my siblings don't even remember that my mom used to grow food at the back of her. Because I was so interested. I was one of those who will always be there to help her. We do, I mean, most of the things I do now, my mom did at that time, but I didn't even understand why she was doing it. For instance, when we remove all the grass and everything, she would make us pile it up again and I'm just, what is all this? Why cut it if we're going to put it back there? But guess what? She was mulching. I didn't understand. Anyway, for me, I became a farmer because I just thought whatever I did would have to be something to do with food. I don't know why. I'm not even it's because she likes food But my parents were very health conscious. I'm telling you, twice a week, we ate salad. I mean, I have cousins who don't come to our house on those days. I don't know about now. Most of us, when we were growing up, there was always a food timetable. You go there to know what food you're going to eat that day. And my cousins, all our cousins, they don't come to our house on those days. They say, it's grass they're going to eat tonight, so don't go to their house. So we know the days when our cousins don't come, that kind of thing. But we didn't know that they were just on a wellness journey. And it became a habit for me. For me, in a week, if I don't eat salad, it's going to be like I'm going to fall sick. And everything must come from my farm, except if it is somebody else who I know. So I have veered into many things. I am a lawyer. I am a partner in my husband's firm, Sheisha & Co. I'm also an HR consultant. I'm a certified CIPD trainer, and I'm a speaker for the School of Eloquence. I'm one of those who believe that if you can speak well, you're going to go places. And so even on some WhatsApp groups that I belong to, if I see somebody who is shiny, who is well-spoken and all of that, I'm usually attracted to them. And if I see someone who is writing things like this, that, I send them a DM. I say, you know what? One day you're going to stand on a world stage and you're going to speak with people. You cannot afford to spoil your English grammar. Please try to be consistent. Many are always surprised to know that I can speak Pidgin English very well. But guess what? I would rarely speak it because I don't want my English language to be so diluted that I'm speaking to an audience like yours and I'm telling you, go GG. I'm sure you'll just be like, where are we? Have we moved to her farm or what? So those are everything I do. I'm actually happy doing it. I also trained as a mediator for Lagos State, and my specialty, which I want to pursue more, is on the agric space, because right now, when we have disputes in the agric space, we actually do not tend to have mediators who are, who can help us with it. So that's an area that I am now going towards. So I had my light bulb moment to go into organic agriculture at a cancer control conference in 2013 in California. I had lost my mom and I was just feeling out of some sort. I thought if I went away somewhere, I would just be able to grieve privately and all. And she had cancer of the colon. She didn't know until she was stage 4 because she ate healthy. She did everything so well. Nobody even thought she could have cancer. But later on, what the doctors told us is actually the fact that you don't tend to develop cancer in your 70s. That for all we care, she might have had the cancer in her 40s, but because she lived healthy and ate very well, that made it kind of slowed the process down for her. So I told myself when I met, about 80% of the attendees were cancer survivors. At a conference of over 1,000 people, I went out and bought a recorder and started interviewing them. I started asking them questions. I then realized that we had formed ourselves into a group of about 8 of us. So we used to have lunch together. And the first lunch we had together, they all started bringing out all the beautiful bags they were carrying. I didn't know they were cold bags. They were cold bags for their food. They just started bringing out their salad, their this, their that. I'm like, okay now. But they said they have food here. They said no. For them, traceability is key. They must know where their food comes from. So they were not just going to eat, not even because, I mean, this was a Sheraton, I think. It didn't matter to them. They just wanted food that they could, So I said, okay, well, this is something that I must do in Nigeria. If this number of people can survive cancer, then, I mean, it's time that Nigeria too, experiences it. So I came back and just jumped into it. Of course, I didn't have any knowledge. I had nothing, absolutely nothing, other than the fact that I had started buying land. So I just intensified that, and I knew that I was definitely onto something, haven't had the opportunity of buying the land. So the next slide, you're going to see, I actually, if you look at this corn, some people will say, fantastic yields. They really tried and all. At the time that we harvested this, I was on top of the world. I thought, oh my goodness, see how rich. You can even still see the soil under it, rich and everything. But guess what? If today in 2021, somebody harvests this kind of corn for me, I will cry on their shoulder. I would cry on their shoulder, because now that I know better, this doesn't pass. I mean, I couldn't put it in grade A or B. Maybe I'll put it in grade C. But what am I talking about? That is the advantage of knowledge. When you operate from the point of ignorance, you think you are the best. And people will even be hailing you, and then you think, oh, thank you. This is so good. And guess what? I was selling it on the street at Oyigbo Market to the market women. The only thing that I was very proud of was the fact that most people who bought it were always saying things like, oh, it's so sweet. The taste lasts longer and all of that. And inside me, I'm like, okay, this is probably what organic is all about. Because, I mean, for them to come back with that feedback all the time. And then beside it is our logo. I had gotten someone, a professional, to design our logo for us. And when the person came around, I said, this is rather colorful. He said, yes, just like you. I said, okay, if that's the way you perceive me, I'm happy to be as colorful as tomato, watermelon, pineapple. And you would not believe it. Today, sweet corn is one of our major produce, because we do it like 24/7. But of course, you also know that being able to do it 24/7 means that we use a lot of irrigation. So if I were to analyze this, my corn, I would say that I will score myself maybe 30%, because at least there was production. And another thing is that at that time, I didn't even weigh. I didn't even know, I was just happy that we were harvesting. Today, I probably will put one on the scale and see, because primarily what we do now, we try to make 3 1 kg. We can achieve 2 as 1 kg, but because of customers who will complain, we'll then try to do it such that at least you get 3, because if it's a household, then they will say, oh, we don't need more than 2 kg. But if your 2 kg is 4, then there's a problem, because for them, one is still 1 for a family member. So that is why I use this photograph, just to laugh at myself and let you appreciate that, honestly, this was a very poor effort. But I can say that now with hindsight and with confidence, having gained enough to say that. So for the next slide, I just put this to share with you that about 60% of those who farm would actually rather do organic farming. Bear that in mind. So even if you have people who tend to want to discourage you, most times they are trying to discourage you because they are unable to do what you're doing. I mean, I had people who told me I will not succeed. And today they say things like, wow, you this girl, you are stubborn, Sha. You are this, you are that, I hear that word a lot. People say, well, I'm stubborn. Some people say I'm weird. How can you just keep at something, even though you were not understanding or making enough success of it? But I said that if I don't stick to it, how would I have gotten here? How would I have gotten here? If I had packed my bags right at the beginning and said, oh, this one is beyond me, then the very many people who say I have inspired them to go organic will probably not be doing it, or be doing it and keep losing money, because nobody who had gone through it has been bold enough to come out and tell them, what it should be. So I'm going to ask you to get your pens and papers. You need this, even if you have not started. This exercise is for every one of us. And like I said, I'm addressing the newbies among us. So if we have matured and those who are highly experienced, if you want to join us in doing some of the exercises, please do so. But I tell you, this SWOT analysis, I do it practically every end of the month. It's left to you to choose when it is best, but start it and inculcate it in the way you work. Let me explain it for the purpose of those who may not fully understand. The SWOT analysis matrix is something you can apply to anything you're doing. And like I told you at the beginning, being in agribusiness or agriculture is a business like any other business. So let's look at the strengths. What are your strengths? Let me give you an example. For instance, maybe you already have land. I know a young man who his dad, at some point in time, his dad thought he would go into farming. And so his dad had bought quite a sizable acreage of land. That's a strength, because while people like me were looking for money to buy my land, someone like that person already has land. So that is a strength. Maybe you have worked in a hospital before, and while you were there, food was an issue, and now you are farming. Who will be your first customer? That hospital. You probably will go back to them and say, oh, that could be your strength. Then it could be the fact that you even read Agric in the university and you already know enough. You've done some practical sessions, you've worked at, or maybe you've been an intern at Okwe Farms before. That would be a strength. So it's left for you to identify those things. And usually those strengths, they're internal, they're things that they're very close to you. Then the W is for your weaknesses. What are those weaknesses? For instance, if you go buy land that doesn't have access to water, or having to dig a borehole is going to cost you a fortune, that's already a weakness. I suffered that when we moved to that place. In fact, when I went to look at the land, the agent who took me said, oh, come and see the, I call it a stream. Come and see the stream behind. Then we went there. I was so excited. I'm telling you, we have about maybe almost 5 miles. I don't know if it's up to 5 miles. Maybe I'm exaggerating. I don't really know. But let's even say it can't be less than 3 miles of a stream right behind us. And the story at the time was that that stream will be so full that if we're not careful, my workers can go into it. I was like, oh, really? Guess what? We've been there for 7 years. It has never even reached half of its height. So what I had considered at that time as a strength, because in fact, I was particular that, oh, if I'm going to get land, the land must have some water, something. It had not worked out that way. So right now, it's a weakness for us because we don't have that constant supply of water. And, you know, for you to even use water from that kind of river, you must have some kind of filtering into your farm, because it's not allowed, since that river, you don't know the source. So there could be a factory dumping some chemical waste in it. You would never know. So you are not actually encouraged to use water like that randomly, except if you're testing it. So let's talk about your opportunities. These are usually external. Maybe you've been opportune to get a grant. Oh, Tony Elumelu Foundation, they've given you 5 million. You know, that's an opportunity that, oh my, you know, you've already jumped on that and you are onto something. And then they're usually external, those opportunities. And then the threats are also usually external. In fact, most times they're things that are beyond your control. The threat, I mean, now that we have all these Fulani headsmen and all of that, those are serious threats. And nobody sits down saying, oh, they're coming to visit my farm. Everybody is just now on their toes and praying that it wouldn't happen. So as I've gone through all these 4, I will be very, very glad if you've done this exercise. If anybody has done this exercise, can you put a yes in the chat box? It's very, very important, and it's personal to you. You don't even have to tell us what it is. I just want to be sure that some of you, thank you very much, Paul Henry. You need to do this. I'm telling you, it's not a secret weapon. It's a small, big weapon for me, because from time to time, when I sit down to do this, I always have a clearer view again. And you know, when you do it, you need to be sincere with yourself. It's not that you're going to show it off or you're going to paste it somewhere for people to see, but it helps you. It really, really helps you. So well done, and thank you, everyone. I'm glad that some of us have taken pains to do that. Please continue to do it. Set a time when you do it. Maybe it's every fortnight or every month. We do it. I do it every month, and I share it with my staff. The ones that, especially the ones that pertains to them, you know, I let them know, oh, we need to do better in this place. We need to do that and all of that. So please save it and continue to work on it. Make sure that your book, you go back, you check. You can always tweak it. Something can be your strength today and become your weakness tomorrow. Like I told you when I was going to buy the land and I had seen the stream and I was quite happy thinking that I had water. But today it's just not happening much. So let's talk about my mistakes. First of all, let me tell you the story. This was a part of the farm many years ago. What we have here is jute leaf, ewedu. I've forgotten the botanical name. The botanical name is always very interesting to me. I know it's kokoro something. So we had this gentleman who came from the UK, and he said, oh, you don't use chemicals, so we want your ewedu, gave all the specifications. I sent my manager then, I sent him to go and learn from people who do it on a massive scale. And when he came back, this is what we started with. So we we were supposed to have about, yes, thank you very much, Olitorus Kokoros. Now, we were supposed to have this in about 6 places. You know, we had done a sort of schedule. So as they harvest one, another one is coming up and all of that. I'm a lawyer. So I had asked the gentleman, we need to sign an agreement for this. Hey, madam, you these educated people, all your while. I said, no, it's not a matter of educated people. For me to commit all these resources to doing something for you, I should have something on ground. Guess what? He will say he's coming today, tomorrow, and he kept on saying, don't worry, I'm coming, I'm going to come and take my harvest, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? He did not come. When the when the vegetables were ready, the man was telling me from London that I should carry it to one place, then one man will do something. I just said, okay, you know what? Let's bite the bullet. So we just harvested it, went to the local market, Ashion, and sold it off. Lessons learned, and I told myself it wouldn't repeat itself again. But one of the major mistakes I actually made was the fact that I didn't have a mentor. You know, mentorship is not what many people think. I always tell people, sometimes you may have a mentor that you've never even spoken with before. You know, I talk at a session and over 20 people will come. I want you to mentor me. I want you to, and inside me, I'm just smiling because I have mentors who probably don't even know that they're my mentors. It's just been that ability to take from people, learn, understand, and once in a while, you bounce things off them. But you don't become a bother to them in such a way whereby each time you come, they're like, oh, this one has come with his trouble. And then such people, you use them very well. You don't use them for trivial things. You use them for things that will advance your business. So, I mean, if somebody were to call me for some things now, I'll just be smiling like, okay, let's just have a conversation. But I would be wishing that the person would ask me things that will progress their business, you know? So that lack of mentor, I mean, I didn't even, I visited farms before I started. I didn't know of any organic farm that I could have visited. But there was a particular lady who was doing a very impressive job at the back of her house, and it was really good. So she helped me. She was able to tell me the things she was doing. I was able to learn and understand. She even came to the farm, came to help me to see, made suggestions, even gave me, I think she gave me geese that, oh, they were good for security. I really benefited from that. But there was nobody doing it on the commercial scale that I had embarked on. I didn't have that. Then, so of course, not having a mentor or a coach meant that I didn't even have much of a direction, but I sure knew that I wanted to do what I was doing. Then the land issue. When I bought the land, the total acreage came from about maybe 8 families. I had been schooled by my uncle, because I have an uncle who is also a farmer, and he had schooled me on how to deal with the families and all of that. And we thought we had sailed and scaled through until one day I got to the farm and somebody had tied a red, you know, when they tie a red piece of cloth, then that means danger, that kind of thing. And then I only realized later that one of the families that sold me their land actually had 1.5 plots that didn't belong to them, but belonged to another family. But guess what? They didn't, no disclosure. So when I saw all of that thing, I just thought, another person has woken up again. All they want is money. And guess what? The particular place that belonged to them is where we have the farm residence. I had put up a little bungalow for workers because I then realized that it was going to work for me to have my workers live in the village because my workers were not Nigerians and they were always having different issues with the villagers, things that culturally a Yoruba person might see as disrespect. They might just see it as nothing. So there was always that clash. But guess what? That particular part of the land had belonged to somebody else. So I didn't have enough information. I had to pay again because the other family had taken all the money. And those ones said, we're sorry, We're not going to listen to any story. It's our land and we want it. So we had to pay them again. And of course, even the things I was growing, I didn't have enough knowledge. I would sit with my YouTube, books, anything that I could find. But I was just more like struggling. One of the builders, the person who built the farmhouse, he even scammed me. Can you imagine? He got money, he was meant to go and pay somebody just maybe like 10 minutes away, and he ran away with the money. I'll tell you, ever since then, nobody buys anything for the farm. I buy it myself. I'm sorry, it's my money. And I hate it when people buy me things and load it up. I think it's unfair. I think it's greedy. So you might want to track your money so that, you know, at the end of the day, you actually know where the pennies are. Then something like plantain. When my first farm, I started growing plantain there. Why? Because somebody said there's profit in it. It's not that I did any homework. I just heard that, oh, plantain is very good and all. Guess what? It's only now I can sit down to realize that, yes, plantain can be very good, but plantain takes so long. So what's going to happen between that time and when the plantain will be ready? Of course, I mean, there was too much of a knowledge gap in what I had. And then when I was even producing, there was no market. So it was my driver who found out that, oh, we could be selling at Oyigbo market. And then we paid and started approaching the women who boil corn and roast corn. You know, those women, I learned a lot from them. There was one, Mama Ngozi, I would sit next to her and be chatting. I was able to negotiate though, that my corn was not the regular one. And their customers kept on coming back to tell them that this particular corn was very good. So if they were paying other farmers, let's say 1,500, that big, huge bag, they were paying very ridiculous amount of money. But they were able to pay me, if they were paying other farmers 1,500, I was able to get about 2,000 something per bag. Guess what? When those women pay me that 2,500, do you know that by the time they finish roasting, can anybody guess the kind of money they've made? Just one person write it in the chat box. The kind of money they make will just throw you off. Sometimes Mama Ngozi made as much as 15,000 naira from that bag. So now 5,000 is small, 5,000 is small. That particular woman that I used to sit next with was making an average of 15,000. Guess what? She used to borrow farmers' money. Some farmers will come to her to borrow money to go and buy seed. I mean, I just thought, what kind of a life is this? And those were the things that opened my eyes to the fact that I was not going to produce for the market. I wasn't going to produce something that I would have to be carrying to one market, go and be fighting for prices and all of that. I just told myself, I had to, you know, do something about it. So, I mean, I could really, really go on, but I know that time is also of the essence. So let me tell you about my wins. The first photograph here shows the former commissioner for Ogun State, who got to her office one day and told her staff that there's an organic farm in Ogun State. And all of them said, in Ogun State? No, there's none. She said, that's because you people don't know social media. On social media, I found a farm that is organic and I want to visit her tomorrow. So they called me and said, was I going to be on the farm tomorrow? I said, I just came in today and I'm really tired. I've been every day of the week. And tomorrow I said, I wasn't going to the farm, I was going to rest. Then I heard her saying, it's okay. She doesn't have to be there. I said, please, who is speaking? Oh, they said he's the commissioner for agriculture in Ogun State. She would actually like to visit your farm. Who am I? A whole commissioner. That was how, you know, I got up and I went to meet her. And everything I was saying to her, all the people who came with her were just looking at me like I had two heads. But guess what? Every time she traveled abroad, especially I think she used to go to France a lot. And anytime she goes to France, she used to visit organic farms. So she already had her reason for wanting to appreciate what it was in Nigeria. So she just asked me for my challenges and all of that. And guess what? After she left, I heard that there was a story that made it round that she had given me a lot of money. I mean, it's funny. There was not even a dime, but guess what? He gave us visibility, which is good for business. It's not everything that is money, you know. And then the second photograph is me trying to explain something. The lady is a popular chef in America. So the photographer next to her is actually her husband. So GT Fair had invited me to come and, you know, display. At that time, they were calling me, you know. So when this lady came, she kept asking them that she needed to get to the, as a chef, she said she needed to get to the farmer's market, and that she heard that there's an organic farmer there. I was the only one who was an organic farmer there. So that was me, her, and the husband. Until today, we still chat once in a while, you know, that kind of thing. And then the next one, which is the third one, where I'm wearing the red t-shirt, the lady who is carrying the camera is actually from BBC. They had read up about me, and, you know, they wanted to come to Nigeria. No, they didn't read up about me. They collected, they collated maybe about 50 names online, people who were claiming organic. By the time they started calling them that they wanted to come and visit them, most of them kept saying things like, oh, I'm not around. Oh, the farm is not open today. Oh, this or that. Anyway, when they got through to me, I said, oh, they said, could we come tomorrow? I said, yes, you can come tomorrow. I said, oh, really? And that was how they came and, you know, interviewed me. Then after that, France 24 also came. But quite a number of things, I would say, have made it a successful one for me. First, my ability to speak and talk about what I do has really helped, because it keeps giving me that platform to talk to people, share with people. Social media was also a plus for me. I went on social media for just one reason. After having suffered that much, I told myself people should not suffer as much. And so I started on Instagram as Sisimi blog. Then I found myself talking more about the farm on Sisimi blog, and it just didn't sound right. So I then started Okwe Farms, and I started talking about my experiences. Whatever happens on one particular day, I just share it. And that was how I built my followership. People look at the followership today and think, could I have bought followers? And then me, what I'm talking about is probably what is of interest to them. I really do not, I don't even watch my figures, you know, to see whether I've hit, people are celebrating. But sometimes my daughter who says, Mom, you have to go on social media and thank people. You've hit so figure. I say, oh, really? You know, then I rush there to go and thank them, you know. So some of the things I do on the side definitely help. And I'm going to tell you more about that. Whatever skill that you have now, please treasure it. There is hardly anything you know how to do that is not going to work for you in your agri-business. Please take that from me. I went to the LBS and did the agri-management program, and that has also helped me, because it opened my eyes to the fact that it's now agri-business, not agriculture. So self-development is another thing that has really, really helped. Most times you find me at conferences, even WhatsApp training. I've been on a WhatsApp training before where the guy said, can we all please introduce ourselves? And I introduced myself. The next thing, he sends me a personal message. I thought you were just going to be there and keep quiet. You don't want people to know you are here. I don't want them to know you are here, please. I'm going to feel inadequate with myself. I said, don't feel inadequate, or you'll be surprised that I have something to learn from you. Please take all your confidence and go right ahead, you know. But that's me for you. I mean, I'm one of those who just feel that there must be something to learn, no matter what. It could be any of you here tomorrow who is doing a training and I'm there. You will never be intimidated by the fact that I'm there. I learn every day. There is no day that I do not sit at my computer to read, to learn, to understand. It's very, very important. So I have this assignment for you. What is your why? Why? Why do you want to know more? Why are you considering organic agriculture? Why? Please, I want you to write it in your book. Write it in your book. Why? What is your why? I'll tell you my own why. My own why is to ensure that I produce safe and healthy food that will nourish the body of we humans. And that is why, for me, conventional could never be my way of life. It just couldn't be. It has to be sustainable. Whatever I'm doing must be building and helping the planet. And that is why even in my organization, we had to ban the use of plastic bags when I realized the havoc it was causing. So please state your own why and write it in your book. It's going to help you. Times when you get to that point where you're thinking, all those things that woman was saying in that day, have I really, is it something? Your why will soon quickly drive you back and say, this is why you're doing what you're doing. So please write it in your book. It's very, 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 very important, because even I remember at one point in time, I felt like giving up. I was just fed up. I was just like, what is this thing that I'm doing that I'm not making much of progress in it, But when I remember, or when my customers call, and I'm telling you, this is not science, it's not scientific, but the things people tell me, I'll tell you a story. Somebody very close to me was sick last year. By November of last year, they had given her 2 weeks, 2 weeks to live, 2 weeks. Guess what? I mentioned it to one of the naturopaths that come to the farm, and this gentleman took up her case. Do you know she lived for another 7 months? Even the hospital. Sorry? Does somebody need to mute? So this lady lived for another 7 months. You can imagine somebody who the hospital has sent home that she should go home. She only had 2 weeks to live, and she lived for another 7 months. And guess what? Primarily on the things I was producing. That was what she lived on. But I think she was tired because she had suffered so much before I got to know of her condition. So it is those things that keep me going. And that is why I'm going to make you do some critical thinking. So now that you've put down your why, let's do some critical thinking. So at this point in time, what is your mindset? Write it down. Are you striving for success? Are you scared? Is there that fear that, oh, can I do it? Or are you looking at me and thinking I have 2 heads, and that's because I have 2 heads is why, or maybe I have a 3rd ear somewhere that you can't see is why I'm trying to convince you? What is your mindset? What's going on in your mind right now? What's your inner dialogue? Write it down. What do you really want for yourself? Write it down. What do you want for yourself? You want to be a successful farmer? You want to be in agribusiness? Or is even one of the value chains that you're interested in? You're not really interested in the putting seed in the ground kind of thing. What exactly, what do you want for your business? What do you want for your business? So these are questions that I want you to consider. And then another thing you need to think of, where do you have a competitive advantage? A competitive advantage means something that is more like a low-hanging fruit for you, something that is already within your domain, something you can readily cash on. Let's say, for instance, you come from a village where people do wild honey. It's something that you're well noted for in that village. Are you the one who is going to harness it, bottle it, turn them into like a cluster, make it a business? Those are the things that you can think of when you know that you have a competitive advantage somewhere. So that's what I really mean when I say, do you have a competitive advantage? Or maybe you're already a marketer. Everybody knows you. There's nothing you can't sell. You can sell coal to the people in Newcastle. So what you want to do is not necessarily that you want to farm as in the nitty-gritty, which is good to know though, but you think that you might be able to go around people and sell to them and make money for yourself and the other farmers who will be supplying you. I know a young lady, she started out as a farmer, but now she's one of the biggest when it comes to selling because she's found her niche in being able to sell to people rather than grow the food itself. So all she does is aggregate from all the other farmers and sell to people. Also write down, how do you plan to achieve what you want? Because it's so easy to sit down and keep saying, I want to do this, I want to do that. No, it's not enough to just keep saying you want to do it. When are you starting? As I'm sitting here and talking to you today, there is something I want to start on my farm. Guess what? I picked up my notes and every day I'm putting something down in that notebook. I'm putting something down in that notebook. Today, I'm still going to work on that thing and I'm going to put it in my notebook. So those are the ways that you can sustain your intention to do something. It's not just saying it every time you gist about it. In fact, you're going to have somebody who will just tell you one day that, come, we've heard enough. Yesterday you said it, 3 days ago you said it, you have not started. When are you going to start? Another question I want you to bear in mind, which I didn't know when I started. How much money do you intend to make per month? It's not the way farmers think. Farmers just think of producing. They don't think of earning. They do not think of earning. Thank goodness I met my farm consultant 4 years ago. And those were one of the things that we had to talk about. You know, he said, it's not enough for you to just keep putting seed in the ground. You need to know what you want. So how much money do you intend to make per month? Please write it in your book. If you don't know it now, you probably have an idea of your expenses in a month. So at least that can serve as your own salary. Then let's say you get 2 other workers. So how do you intend to make this amount of money? That's another very, very important question. Because it's one thing to decide what you want to make, is another one to, make that amount of money. For instance, this year would have been my most successful year since I started. But guess what? It's probably going to end up being the worst because I didn't have workers. I had workers at the beginning of the year and they were recalled back by their families because of the insecurity everywhere. And to start looking for workers during the year, you're looking for trouble because you're going to get people who are just going to come and steal you silly. And it did happen. Out of desperation, my business manager got some people. They just cleaned us out. They just cleaned out my sweet corn and all of that. So I said, you know what? Let's just be operating on our, we're operating on like 20% or 30% right now. But hey, it's better than to completely lose the farm, to hoodlums. So when I say, how do you intend to make this amount of money? We're going to talk more about it. So let's move on, Doc. So this is a case study, and I'm going to need your input. I'll try and read it to all of you, but I'm going to need you with your own background, with your understanding, tell us what you feel made a difference in their stories. And these are stories directly from the website. I have not modified it or anything. I've just put it as I picked it. So there's this gentleman, Liu Yong Singh. Together with his brothers, Liu Yong Singh founded the small chicken and quail farm in the 80s. And over the years, he has become one of China's richest men, with a fortune estimated at about $6.6 billion. Yes, in agribusiness. He formed East Hope Group in the early 90s when he separated from his 3 brothers, and one of them we have already mentioned in this text. Each of the brothers launched their own agricultural company. East Hope Group is engaged in agriculture, real estate, heavy industry. In the agricultural industry, they're focused on the production of animal feed with over 100 species. What is very interesting, although the people on this list are millionaires and billionaires, Ms. Chinere, please come, who got rich on the basis of agriculture, none of them has the largest farm in the world. However, we must pay homage to them. Please shut the door, shut the door. We must pay homage to them. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. What is very interesting, although the people on this list are millionaires and billionaires who got rich on the basis of agriculture, none of them has the largest farm in the world. However, we must pay homage to them because they themselves have created their wealth with a few exceptions and had the courage to invest their money and time in the industry in which they find themselves. So, your contribution, as we read through, what are the things that jump out at you? This is the richest man in agribusiness. What jumps out at you? Please put in the chat box. What jumps at you from what he has achieved? What do you think contributed to his success story? I haven't seen anything yet. So let me help you by saying something like, he started out with his 3 brothers. And guess what? He pulled out. Probably their vision was not the same. Maybe their focus was not the same. Maybe the level of passion they had was different from his. Yes, his consistency. There are many more. Thank you for that. Association, passion, investor. Yes. There are many more things there. Look at what he's doing, what he's actually doing. Yes, focus. How about the feed? Yes, he was able to grow this small farm land profitably. Yes. Yes, value chain, innovation, determination. He started with a chicken farm and entered into, thank you. Yeah, those are the kind of things I'm looking for. Yes, he started with a chicken farm and entered into production of animal farm. Yes. And guess what? They also told us that they don't have the biggest farm, you know, and also courage, the courage to invest their money and time in the industry in which competition is very strong. Thank you. He pursued his dream regardless. Yes. Thank you, everyone. So we're going to go to the second story, the second person. Now, this is Stuart and Linda Resnick, the largest part Resnick family fortune, which is estimated, yes, he found his niche area, thank you, which is estimated to 4.2 billion, comes from pistachios and almonds. These are nuts, you know, that are grown on the farm in California. Resnick family has invested more than $100 million in sustainable technologies in order to adapt to harsh natural conditions that plagued California over the past few years. Their farm business started in late 70s, and today the products of their companies are located in the homes of nearly half the population of America. Why would it not be rich? So let's look at this. What do you think made them a success story? I would say the kind of things they're even growing, because pistachios and almonds are very expensive. Almonds are very, very expensive. You buy a pack of almonds, you're paying through your nose for it. So if a farmer is farming those kinds, it's like somebody tells you, oh, I'm on 20 acres. In fact, when people meet me, one of the first questions they ask, how many acres is your farm? I'm always laughing. Because do you know that if another farmer is doing, yes, I believe they were able to find their target market and grow for them, yes. And we're told that even invested in sustainable, thank you, investment in sustainable, that's what Mr. Kayode is saying, investment in sustainable technologies. So you make the money somewhere, you quickly plug it into something else that would also even now make more money for you. You know, it's like you're earning money somewhere and you're building a house. Then the house becomes an hotel. that value chain, that, going on and on. And then look at the last paragraph. The products of their companies are located in the homes. Yes, the choice of produce. They're located in the homes of nearly half the population of America. So, I mean, these couples sleep, they're making money. They wake up, they're making money all the way. So I just brought these two stories to you as case study, just to help your mind, just to help you think. I mean, it's when a society where the minute you say you want to do agric, everybody is telling you it has to be cassava, it has to be this, it has to be that. You must think it through. You must think it through. Do you know that a farmer who is doing, let's say a farmer is doing 2 acres of strawberries and another farmer is doing 10 acres of something else. Do you know that the farmer who is doing 2 acres of strawberries might be making much more money? Yes, it's good to have multiple streams of income. Thank you. Yes, selling what is in demand. Thank you very much. So, Doc, let's go on. Yes. So now we're going to talk about the strategies. And what are they? I have just grouped them so that it's less cumbersome. Honestly, I'm telling you, each of these strategies, if there are 2 of these strategies, I can talk on them for a whole day. Yes, something like production, marketing. Those ones they're really very powerful, but we're going to take it in our stride. Let's go on. So let's start with production. Production. That is the the foundation, because no matter what food we eat, it probably started from a farm. Of course, if it didn't start from a farm, then there's a problem, So your production strategy has to be very firm, and it is something that you must take pains to understand very, very well. So, for instance, let me tell you one of the things we did. In choosing our crops, we realized that because many of those who come to us for a purpose. They want quality and on demand, something they feel is worth spending their money on. So we decided on 3 levels of production. First is agroforestry. I always tell everyone who buys, if you buy even 1 plot of land, please plan to put maybe soursop, any tree, any fruit tree, really. But the smaller your land, the more, I don't know if I should use the word, the more expensive fruits, or I don't know the right word to use. For instance, those seedlings I showed you at the beginning, they are seedlings of pomegranate. Now, of course, if you price pomegranate in the market, it's not even, I think it's sold as one. I'm not sure. I think they sell it per piece, as in just one single one. So if you can imagine you do 10 acres of something like pomegranate. After about 3 years, you are going to smile to the bank. I'm telling you, when I was starting, if I have the kind of information I have now, honestly, I would do things very differently. I definitely would do things very differently. So whatever you're doing now, please try to include agroforestry, that is trees, fruit-bearing trees that would give and give and give. There are trees that can give you fruits for 25 years continuously. Some will even extend to 50. I know a lady who said she has an ube tree. How did she get it? When she was young, I think her mom or her dad planted it for her. She's over 40, and the ube tree is, so it's even something that she can, I think when it fruits, she just packages it and decides to give everyone. Yes, palm oil tree. So anything tree, I always advise people to consider it, because at the end of the day, you're going to enjoy it. Look at soursop. A soursop fruit costs between 400 and even 1,000 naira, you know, depending on how big and all of that. So we have that. Then when I started, I didn't think they were exotic. I just wanted something that in those days was not within our reach. I remember when my mom had her cancer, one of the first things we were asked to go and be getting for her was kale. At that time, kale didn't grow in Nigeria. Kale is not Nigerian. In fact, when people ask me things like, what's the Nigerian name? What's the Yoruba name? I always look at them in wonder because it's not ours. It's not ours. And I used to go to a particular store in Ikoyi. They will fly it in and we'll all be on the queue. Then you're praying that the persons in front of you don't buy all the kale. As they're selling the kale, you're looking and praying that, hey, let them leave some for my mom. You know, so when I started planting kale, it was just to give me inner satisfaction. That's something that was non-existent when my mom had her cancer. Is something that I can confidently grow now. So we started that. So we do cucumbers, we do kale, golden melon, wild rocket. You know, sometimes, in fact, I dabbled into broccoli and cauliflower. But I think at that time, Nigerians had not woken up to it. So next year is one of the key things we're definitely going back to, you know. And then now we do a lot of, we do quite a number of medicinal plants, especially because quite a number of naturopaths, natural healers and all patronize us. So we also ensure that we have things that they will need. And of course, I love, love, love Nigerian indigenous vegetables. So we have practically all, anything I find out that is local to us, I want the seed or the stems and I want to grow it. So that's another thing that I can tell you about. Now, please, the next slide. Okay, yes, I had shared this saying that organic farming requires deep, constantly upgraded knowledge, you know. And I said, this was one journalist that really, really, you know, when people interview you, sometimes it's one thing you say is another thing they publish. So when I saw this, I was quite happy because we mustn't fool ourselves. For you to practice organic agriculture consistently in Nigeria, you need to keep upgrading your knowledge or else you'll just be outdated. While you're struggling, others have moved on. Thank you, Doc. So you may need your pen and paper at this point because I'm going to share with you some of the things that have worked for us. Please, please, please make your production process driven. And how are you going to achieve that? Let's imagine that's me. You know, I don't know why. I don't even eat sweet corn as much as I love to take photos when they are growing. You know, when they're at this level, I go in there, I take a photo. When they're taller, I take a photo. When we are harvesting, I take a photo. You know, it's just, I don't know, it just gives me joy. Maybe I've watched too many movies of people in cornfield and things like that. Now, how do you arrive at your processes? Let's say this is the sweet corn, you want to grow sweet corn. So how do you treat your seeds? So number one, on your process, number one might be the cultivar, the particular one that has worked for you. Or maybe you're just even starting and you've asked on a platform, please, if you've planted sweet corn before, can you share with me the one that you know you were quite successful with? What brand, whatever. So your process will be buy XYZ seeds. You might even mention your seller so that if you're not around or if you're out of town, other people can handle it. So the second one would be, for instance, if we buy treated seeds, we always soak them so that some of the chemicals that they had used can leave the thing. So your number two will be soak the seeds overnight. Your number three will be prepare your bed. For your bed, you can say put something kg or well, manure to soil is this much. Make your beds. Plant each seed X space between each other. Then let's say week 2, spray with blah blah blah, maybe neem oil and something. That is how you develop your process. So why you need your record? I'm sure record keeping is probably one of the key things you've talked about in the sessions. So one of the key things that is going to help you is to even start by documenting everything you're doing. So the first time you do it, if there is a problem somewhere, let's say by the 3rd week, you had a massive, you just woke up and armyworms were there, then you will know that you had missed a step somewhere. So you go back, you go back, maybe you then realize that, oh, you were spraying every week. Maybe that every week was too long. You can then change it to maybe spraying every 4 days or something. So you just make sure that you build your own process so that at the end of the day, you keep fine-tuning it and it gets to a point where that process becomes what you adapt for the farm. Personally, I don't share processes with people, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes our soil is different, our environment is different, our practices are different. There's just something. So I always encourage people, take time out and develop your own process, something that will work for you on your own farm within your own space. Then pricing. One of the things we still use to shortchange ourselves is eye measure. You look at something and say, this mug, polka dot, it looks nice. Let's sell it for 1,000 naira. I was so impressed in 2017 when we went for the Organic World Conference in India. Do you know that right on the street in India, we wanted to buy oranges. I love fruits. Anytime I'm in any country, once I have different fruits in my room, I'm happy. So when we got to India, we now saw the fruits. We're so excited. As we're picking the oranges, my man was weighing them. Oranges, he weighed them. And after weighing them, he told us the cost and we paid. Till we got to our hotel room, we couldn't keep quiet. Blah, blah, blah. Imagine that our farmers have the privilege of weighing everything they produce. And guess what? It is one thing that is going to help you as part of your production strategy. I don't know those who were here at the beginning when I showed you my miserable looking corn, which at that time made me very happy. Imagine putting that corn on a scale. I think probably about 6 will make 1 kg. Now flip it to whereby you have knowledge, you're growing very well, and 2 makes 1 kg. There's a difference. The farmer who is selling 10, when they say, 10 for 500 or whatever like that. And another thing I will share with you, which works. You can buy things from the market. Let's say you decide to do an ugu farm. Buy from the market. Mama, so. And they tell you, this is 500 naira. That's the last price. Buy the 500 nairas worth and go and put it on a scale at home. When you put it on the scale, it will give you an idea of what it is. We found out that, in fact, it was a customer that found out for us that the leaves of our ugu were thicker, heavier. I was surprised. Sometimes it's your customers who will teach you even so many things that your mind didn't go to. So whatever the case, as much as possible, price per kg. Whatever you sell, price it per kg. Some things cannot even be priced per kg. I remember there was a time we did a particular lettuce. Unlike the lettuce we were doing, because then we're supplying about 2 juice companies. We used to supply them weekly. And we couldn't find the particular seed that they used to ask us for. We now bought another one. Do you know that about 3 crates made up 1 crate of the one we're planting for them? It was later on I just said, I'm sorry, I can't go on with this until we find that particular seed. We had to stop. And then we started selling that particular lettuce in pack. So we now sold it as a pack rather than kg because it didn't have any weight. And all the effort that we had put into it is the same, you know. So those are the ways I want you to start thinking if you want to be successful in this business. Otherwise, you just be working for nothing. And then the days to maturity, usually people, I think they call it DTM, is very important. Let's take the fastest thing you can grow in Nigeria, I think is still this ewedu. Yes, I think it's about 28 days. Sometimes when it's really fast and all, maybe you get 24, 25 days. So for days to maturity, it can score, but it will not score on the basis of price because it is not sold as expensively. I remembered asking Tim what farm one day. I said, come, why are we even growing this ewedu self? It's so cheap and all the effort is the same. It's the way I would treat my kale, I would treat my ewedu, and yet I cannot sell it. And then he just laughed. He said, let's just call them add-ons, you know. And I remembered last year we were giving out our water leaf and ewedu free because we had we had a lot on the farm. So please consider the days to maturity in choosing the things that you grow. If the days to maturity is very long, then that is long term. Make sure you have something that is mid-term and something that is also short-term. When you arrange it as short-term, mid-term, long-term, it means that you can earn continuously rather than you go and invest in something that is just long-term and you are waiting. What are you going to eat during that period that you're waiting? How about the money you're supposed to send to mama? You know, how about that your brother that is waiting for some little pocket money from you? You know, so anytime you're considering what to grow, please space it out and spread it out. Don't be rigid about, oh, it's got to be one particular thing. You need to be able to make money while you're waiting for some of those things. And then another thing you can consider is yield per square meter. You know, even continuity. When I first started growing something like kale, we would uproot the whole thing and sell and then start another production until I just sat down and I can't even remember, maybe it was YouTube or I think it was a farmer that said something somewhere and said, oh, there's more on my YouTube channel. And by the time I got to his YouTube channel, I quite enjoyed and then realized that you don't have to uproot the whole of kale. You can just be plucking the leaves and the thing grows back again. I'm like, oh, really? And do you know that it can last you 18 months, even up to 2 years sometimes? So those are all the things you need to consider. And then the yield per square meter. Some things in one space, they give you much more than some other things. Those are all the things you will need to work on. And then of course, popularity of the crop. Whatever you choose to do, make sure that it's popular enough for you to be able to sell it. And if it's not popular, then don't start growing it. Start talking about it. You can even take it from other people, just as a trial. I had a young lady who at the time was of taking our kale. You know, her intention was to go and grow it, you know, but she started selling it to other people and quite enjoyed the fact that she was making profits at not having to do anything like going to a farm and all of that. So you need to think of, is it popular enough? Is it something that I can market? Can I talk about it intelligently? And you must know your stuff. Whatever produce you're growing, you must know enough about it. You'll be amazed what customers would ask you. I mean, sometimes you even wish, you two can read this thing up. No, because they believe so much in you, they start throwing all the questions to you. So the popularity of the crop you want to sell within your vicinity is very important. And then of course, your network. The reason why I added your network to this production strategy is that I remembered about 5 years ago, somebody had harvested 300 kg of tomatoes and didn't have market. So when he called me, I said, oh, wow, what can I do? Do you know that I just helped him to mention to, I think just about 3 people bought everything off him. I didn't even do intermediary or agency. I just said, so and so, one man, blah, blah, blah. And that day. So he also said, your network is powerful, just like that, you know. But how do you build your network? That's another thing for another time. But please build your network. Let people know what you're doing, talk about it, you know, advocate for what you're doing, you know. So we can move on, Doc. Now, I'm showing you this so that you can also learn to use it as you grow in your business. This is a production schedule. We do this okay, what we do is that at the beginning of the year, we do it. And we've broken it down into quarter. Each quarter, we now even further break down. Unfortunately, we did a production schedule this year. It has not worked because there is no manpower. But it doesn't stop you from having it. What will happen is that even if you don't follow it, you'll be more realistic. You can then change. There's nothing that says that it's not cast in stone. So let's say Q1, let's say we take January. January is month 1 of Q1, and you had put it there that you want to produce XYZ. Now, the XYZ, you will also have the quantity that you must produce every time. So let's say it's a 28-day produce. It means that if you're supposed to supply it all throughout the year, you're going to calculate it in line with the number of days that is going to take it to be ready, so that at the end of your quarter, you'll be consistent. Because that consistency is where we farmers tend to have problems. For instance, all the people I produced for last year, I can't produce for them this year because I don't have the manpower. The manpower I have is just barely enough to manage the family basket that we have. We have a family basket where we supply people in their homes. I mean, usually when we do this production schedule, we will then decide, we can say, for Q1, we're going to add 1, 2, 3. For Q2, we might even add something else that Q1 didn't have, and then Q3, and on like that. So customers tend to have a bit of variety. This year, one of our very, very good customers actually wrote me. I mean, when she wrote me, it was a very lovely message. And she said, whatever is keeping you from giving us those lovely, bountiful variety of produce, I pray that you get over it in good time. So I had to send her a message, thanked her, and told her that we actually do not have enough workers, that we're working with maybe about 2% of our normal number of workers. So please, this production schedule, fly with it. This particular one, I mean, some of the things I'm sharing with you today, I owe that knowledge to my farm consultant. We work with Futox. Is private extension services. That's what they render for us, because the country cannot afford extension officers. I mean, it will have gone a long way if you actually have extension officers who visit your farm, talk to you, help you to strategize and think. But forget it. They're not, I mean, well, they're not in my own area, Sha. So we had to get our own, and we pay them for the services they render to us. Good evening. So please, this production schedule, you need it, and you need to fine tune it and understand it. As you build your market, you can keep changing it. It doesn't mean that if you put it, and then in fact, you can benchmark yourself. Oh, Q1, we're going to do 100 kg of something or 50 kg of something, on all of that. I'm unable to hear what you're saying. You probably are the only one. Please, can others hear me? Somebody says he can't hear me.
Yes, you are audible enough. We can hear
I
you,
think maybe he has a problem from his end. So please, your production schedule is very, very important. It's going to help you a lot. And as you go through your experiences, you will then be able to even decide what you should be aiming for. So if you aimed for 20 kg of something, and your market extended to 50, then it means that by the time you're tweaking your production schedule, you can either increase it and something like that. So Doc, let's move on. And then let me quickly add that as an organic farmer, please, please, please always add extra to your production schedule. The reason is that we all know that even in agriculture, 1 + 1 might not necessarily be 2. But in organic, until you fine-tune your processes and you see the sweet corn where I was standing. I mean, I've had my fair share, but now I can grow sweet corn with you know, when you produce, you must always put a percentage to wastage. Do not say, oh, I know this is going to give me 20 kg for sure. Please don't say that. What you're going to do is that you're going to add extra so that when you produce, if you have any pest infestation or any loss, so to say, you then find a room to maneuver. So that's also very important. So let's go on, Doc. Yes, here I said processing versus production. This is Crongel. Do you know that I had always felt that primary production is probably the most kale, K-A-L-E, K-A-L-E, that's it on the screen, K-A-L-E, yes. So I've always felt that, you know, this side, that's the primary production, the tilling the ground, putting your seed in and all of that is probably the most, I don't want to use, because I love it, I'm passionate about it. So whatever name anybody else gives it, I will always still embrace it. I'm one of those who even entering my farm alone gives me a special peace of mind. There's just something about being there. I wish I could live there. If Nigeria was a safer country, I probably would live on my farm and come home at weekends, you know? So this is production, for instance. Everything you see here is kale. At that time, we used to do something like 1 acre of kale because we're supplying 2 juice companies. I think we're supplying them 50 kg twice a week, and we're doing lettuce 100 kg twice a week. And we're delivering we used to deliver in the night because they want it, you harvest it in the evening on the farm and you bring it straight to them. And delivery was free. I mean, it's the least you could do. If somebody is taking that kind of quantity off you, it's the least you can do. Now, after attending the agribusiness management program at the Lagos Business School, I then realized that the processing that I had been doing, thank you, farming has been linked to relief from depression. Thank you. So I then realized that the little processing we were doing on the side was making some sense. And I will urge everyone, if you want to go into primary production, please make sure you have the knowledge of post-harvest. And that also helps because I actually attended a post-harvest training whereby there's hardly so many things now. I know what to do with them. So if this kale, if I produce this kale and my customer said, oh, so and so has supplied us, we don't need yours, I'll just go and dry it. And guess what? We had a lady who was taking kale from us. And you know what she was doing with it? She was drying it and adding to her granola. I don't know if you know the granola cereal, all these oats and things that people, they mix it with honey and dry it and all of that. So whatever side you choose to be, if you're producing primary production, please make sure that you have an avenue for processing. Every processor needs a producer. So whichever way, we need each other. You can't do one without the other. In fact, at my LBS program, I used to laugh a lot because it almost felt like those of us who were in primary production were in trouble. And I kept saying, you know what? You cannot process without me. If I don't produce, you don't have anything to process, you know. But one of the highlights for us is that now, in fact, every leaf, I can say 98% of the leaves on our farm are things that we can process. Maybe when we finish and the screen is off, I would ask for some of our processed items and show you. So the photo on the, well, I don't know if it's on your own left, the photo with the neck pain and all. By the way, that's a photo shoot that I did myself. I know it's one of the things I always tell people, you need to be, there's a lot you just need to keep learning. Sometimes I just go through some pages and I admire and I look and all of that. Then I realized that, thank you very much. I then realized that I could learn it. So I went to learn how to take my own photo shoot. And today I have a little space, you know, that I just arrange my things. I do my, I mean, and if I can think that way at my age, please, these are all add-ons that would help your market. If this was in a magazine, you wouldn't look at it and say, what's this? You would even say, oh, nice. And what is it? That's our calming tea. Last year, was it last year? Oh, it was this year. I went to the School of Naturopathy. Why did I do that? Because I realized that all the naturopaths that come to the farm, as they are working on, hey, this is something, you know, those botanical names. Pardon me, I'm an illiterate. This is good for this. Do you know this is good for that? I said, So I felt like I was just sitting in a bank looking at the money, but I couldn't touch it. So I decided to go learn. So I went for that training. I still have 3 more modules to finish. But what it has done is that even the little I've learned has made me to, for instance, if anybody here follows me on Instagram, what I posted today is the honey goat weed. This thing is all over the farm. I'm almost certain that by the time I finish harvesting the quantity on the farm, I should have maybe roughly an acre's worth. So what am I doing? We bought a dehydrator. I had even bought the dehydrator before I went for the training. So what we do is that we dry most of these things. Before then, I used to use the smaller dehydrators, the home ones. And then a lady told me of how she has 10 of them. I'm thinking, how would I manage 10 of them? So I just saved up and bought a bigger one. And that is what we use to dry. So the teas that we make, we actually dry the leaves directly. So they're from the farm, and we had learned how to process it, and then we dry it and package as tea. So please consider production and processing, because processing is what will give you a little more mileage, because then you can add value. You can add value to it. It's not profiteering, but at least you can make money. If this tea was actually a gift, somebody ordered them to give out as souvenir at a wedding, and it was very popular. Everybody wanted it. And this particular calming tea, I didn't want us to call it a sleep time tea, but it can make you sleep. So we purposely put it there as calming, because if you are trying to calm down, you probably won't want to drive. But the new one that we're packaging now, because a lady took some of this to America and then came back and said, oh, everybody wants it. So we now people sat down and we're now preparing it more commercially, so to say, to sell. And we've added more things to it. And that one, we're going to call it a sleeping tea, because we don't want you to take it as tea and then go drive. We might get you into trouble, you know. So even the lemongrass, we used to sell lemongrass before as lemongrass fresh. We had to stop selling it because the moisture level in lemongrass is very high. So you harvest 10 kg from the farm. By the time you get to Lagos, you can't believe it. It might be 7 kg or 8 kg. So we just decided, you know what, we can't continue with this. And we started making it into tea. This tea I'm taking is lemongrass tea. We now sell it as tea. And we even started bagging them. So you actually take your tea bag and put it in hot water and enjoy it. Thank you, Doc. Let's move on. This is another one that I can spend a whole day talking about. And honestly, you need it. You can't produce and say, oh, I'm just a farmer. I just enjoy producing and somebody else will market. No, you have to be an advocate for whatever you're producing. From the time you start producing it, you need to start talking to people about it because you're going to be the best person to sell your own produce. If you can't market what you're producing, then there's a problem. Even if you get a commercial or professional person to market it for you, it will be unfair for you to do something that you cannot talk about. And what I always beg people to do, promote the value. Sometimes I go on social media and I'm reading things like, come and buy my produce. Why are you not buying my produce today? I just smile because why don't you tell me the benefit? I just told you, for instance, that tea would make somebody sleep. Now, the lady who is now canvassing for the sale of this tea in America was bereaved. She lost her husband. And I didn't know what I could do to contribute. So one day in conversation, she just said, oh, she doesn't get to sleep. And I said, oh, how about all the drugs they're giving her? I said, number one, she's not keen on just gulping down all those drugs, and that she really would rather have had preferred something natural. So what we then did, thank you, is cures insomnia. You know, we're trying not to make a claim. So I have a feeling NAFDAC will not register us if we say it cures something. Anyway, so I now told the lady, I said, I'm going to mix something for you and I hope it works. Guess what? That was how I picked some leaves, we dried them, and we just crushed them and sent to her in a pouch. Then she came around and said she was traveling to America just to be with her children. I said, are you going to take your tea along? She said, oh, the customs might take it if they see green leaves. You know, everybody thinks once you have green leaves, it's probably hemp or something you're trying to get into the country. So I said, don't worry, I'm going to do it for you in a way that you will not have to complain. And so we actually bagged the tea leaves in tea bags and packaged it, put a label and all of that. She got to where she was going and people realized that, so just by taking this tea, you can sleep. Now we're actually producing for her to sell to her friends in America. So you're going to find out that some things are just going to fall on your lap and it's best to run with them. Don't even overprocess it. Don't overthink it. And whatever you want to do, don't put money ahead. Money tends to scare us. You know, you want to do something and the first thing is, it's 10,000 naira. Oh, it's 5. The minute you put money there, it is likely that you will not push it as much. I learned something. I think it was Fela Durotoye. We did a training together years ago in my company. And he said something that stuck with me. He said, anything you want to do, anything at all, the first thing you need is never money. And do you know it's true? The first thing you need is your brain to think about it and resolve it and plan it and see how it will work. Sometimes when you start thinking of money, you might even find low-hanging fruit like, okay, let's say you want to do something. Suddenly you remember that, okay, let's say you want to print your business card. You say, oh, I'm going somewhere. They said we should bring a business card. Then you remember your friend who is a graphic designer. Oh boy, please now, this. You say, for you, I'll do that. You know, that has not taken money off you. He could say, oh, okay, I normally charge 2,000 naira, but just pay me 1,000 as we are friends, you know? So don't put money ahead. Don't let money be your determining factor. Another thing you have to consider is the channel through which you want to market. What channel are you going to use? People have different theories. Some people will say, oh, it's people my age who are on Facebook. Oh, it's the younger ones who are on Instagram. I mean, the digital marketers have all those analyses. What I will always tell you, don't necessarily start hammering your friends and your family. Sometimes they're not your best customers. Some of them will even think, why are you asking me to buy? You didn't even give me the free one first. So you may need to market to people you don't know. I find out that the people I don't know tend to become the people that are my loyal customers. Even up till now, I don't think I can confidently say I know half of our customers. But some of them will call, some of them send messages, oh, thank you, blah, blah. I mean, those are the things you want to build. So that channel, in the end, you will know by promoting the benefit of what you do. It could be in your mosque, it could be in your church, it could be your old school group. You just tell them, maybe you've made up your mind what you want to do. You can offtake from someone. You are going to have, we're going to have an old boys meeting or something. Say, oh, please, can you give me a slot? I would like to talk for about 10 minutes on something that I've just started doing. And then you go there, you go and tell them how, because the produce they've not sprayed it with chemicals and things like that, it's beneficial to the body. In actual fact, you must have some facts and if possible, some data to shift them from the point of, he has come to, oh, really? And then, so where do we find the thing now? You've talked about it. So where is it? I said, oh, by the way, I brought a few, if anybody is interested in buying, or you could have done little packs, just little packs, and say, well, just for you all to know, I have one tea bags here for all of you, for each one of you. Take it and give me your feedback. But please make sure that feedback, you get it in writing from them, because that tea bag that you're giving them free is actually not free. You're buying the feedback from them. That's what you're doing. So if, for instance, you look at the bottom of this slide, you see the first one there with the jars, with the glass, which I tied the jute rope on. That's our honey. Do you know that there are people who resell this honey and they are just happy? They're not even interested in doing anything again. In fact, and I don't even follow them, so people don't even link me up with them. I don't follow them on any social media, but they're like my bulk buyers. We also sell and we label ours. So those ones you see there are glass jars. They're not the most popular because most people will say, the glass jar makes it expensive. But actually, honey is best inside a glass jar. So what we also suggest to people is that when they buy in the plastic PET bottles that we sell, they should please pour it out in a glass jar. Next to it is our chicken. We actually have a poultry, and we also raise our poultry without the use of chemicals and antibiotics and all. Then the other one is the tea that I'd shown you before. The next one shows you some of our fresh crops, tomatoes, sweet corn. I think there is carrot or something there. And then we use brown paper bags because we almost saved the planet. It's the only one we've got. The more plastic bags we're using, the more we're desecrating, everywhere. So we, I don't know if we started fully beginning of last year or the year before that, but now no more plastic bags at all. I mean, initially, even some customers were complaining. We said, just let's look at the fact that this paper, is sustainable. You can even shred it and make it into, put it in your compost. And then the last picture there is actually spices. Yes, oh, lovely. So that's our spices. We now have 4 different ones. That's the first one. I think the very first one is the 6-mix spice. I also went for a training. There's a fantastic lady who does a training for it, and she's really good at, what she does. So please focus on your niche. Don't say, oh, I set out to do X. If you set out to do X and everybody is asking you for Y, what should you do? You should add Y to it. And if the Y is where you get your money, then sadly, your X might not be the focus. So please be very sure that your niche, you identify it and run with it. And then try to give back in one way or the other to your customers. It's very, very important. And don't always think of money. Sometimes when you give back, it's not money. You might even have something that is overgrown on the farm and you just say, oh, this particular point, let's everybody have it, or you can even organize a talk whereby you just share some things with them so that they go away with something. So whatever you're going to give, make sure it's within what you can afford. Please don't overdo anything, And then I talked about the channels from which you want to sell. Be very sure that Oh, lovely, lovely. She says, I love processing. So make sure that you're picking what resonates with you and them. You're meeting them on the platform that they like the most. And then even when people buy things from you, if you can, once in a while, you can go. When I first started, I actually used to go and do deliveries myself. And sometimes some people will come out and say, ah, you came by yourself? I say, yes, you're worth it. You're that important. I remember the lady, she said that statement, she doesn't forget it. Because she just came out and she was shocked. Of course, today I hardly do that with them because they now go to like, we have 3 or sometimes we have 5 different points where some people are heading this way, heading that way. And what I do is just follow up with them. And of course, we always tell customers, please, if my staff hide anything from you, tell me. That customer relationship is very, very important. So we always tell them, and I always tell them, report yourself to me before the customer reports you, so that we can make amends. You know, the last thing I want to handle is a customer saying, oh, something is not, we will replace it. We have a full replacement. There was a dispatch rider who, I don't know what happened. I think he must have had an accident and he didn't want to tell the boss. So palm oil that is sealed in a bottle, poured on Gary, and he went to deliver it like that. Of course, the lady was livid. And one thing that made me happy, the lady said, I'm almost certain that this is not how you gave him. And of course, it was not how we gave him. So what we did was that we just replaced it and then went back to the dispatch company and said, we're blacklisting you because you embarrassed us by going to supply a customer palm oil and Gary all mixed together kind of thing. Because he could have called us to apologize or tell us what had happened. So I've then please don't forget the 5 P's. And what are they? Your product. You know, one thing that makes my heart bleed sometimes is that when you see a product from out of our place, you can tell. You just pick up something and there's so many words on it. The ink is blurry. You know, it just doesn't look appealing. If you have to spend money on your labeling, please do it. You see, it's the quality of your branding that is going to determine the kind of people who want your produce. So if you are going to a market where you want them to see you as highly professional, then you've got to give it just the right way. And I'll tell you one thing you can do. When you're thinking of doing your labels, go online. Okay, let's say this is honey. You can go online and just say bottles of honey or honey jars or honey label. Then when you look at it, pick the one that resonates with you, the one that you really like, or even ask in a group, or maybe your family members, or you have a friend who is very critical, who has very fine eye. Even when you dress up, she's the first to say, ah, no, I don't like this, your combination, go and change it. This one doesn't. Such people, be ready to hear the feedback. Feedback can sometimes be hurtful, but guess what? If you're doing the right thing, you even see it as hurtful. You see it as a gift, because the person who tells you, oh, if you do this like this or do that like that, it's a gift they're giving you. They don't have to. You're not paying for it. You know, it's free. So please remember that your product, your price, then the kind of promotion that you're going to give to the product or the people, and then the place and the people, all your 5 P's, very important. I'll go over them again. Your product, your price, the promotion, the place, and the people. The place, where are you going to sell? Where are you going to sell? Where are they going to meet you? You know, those who were here at the beginning heard me when I said I actually sold on the street market in Oyibo. Because look at the quality of corn I was churning out. Thank goodness I didn't even know the kind of people I know now. I wouldn't even offer them now. But from there, one of my sisters said, come sis, the people who need your produce are not the people you meet at Oyibo market. Come to our car park, harvest every Friday, harvest every Thursday, and come to our car park and sell. Do you know that when BBC came to the farm, to ensure that I really do have market, they followed me there. So even though they left the farm on Thursday, on Friday, that place where I said I sell, they were there. So I had this big umbrella. I'll sit there and I'll put all my produce on the table. Guess what? There are about 5 schools nearby. So as they all drop their children at school, they head there Friday morning and they're picking. By the time we're leaving, we're usually always sold out. By the time if the last few customers who come, even if there's anything left, I just give them. Or sometimes if there's something that we know that we have produced quite a lot of it, then we just have a basket where we tie it and we say, if you shop from us, take one, that kind of thing. So that's also a promotion we're adding there. So it's not rocket science, it's just something that you can, build into the way that you do your things. So those are the critical ones that I would like to mention. Now, the target customers, that is also very, very important. I think that has the next slide. So you have to think, are you dealing with individuals, families, or schools? Let me enjoy myself. This photo, the very first one, that's me and the, what's her, the VP's wife. I was a speaker at one of her events. So I didn't know somebody, you weren't even allowed to take your camera and say you want to take a photograph with her, but somebody had actually snapped me, talking to her, and she had said something that was very, very funny. So that was why all my 32 are out there. So you need to consider, who are your target customers? Are they individuals, families, schools? I know an elderly man, you would not believe it. Everything he produces, he sells to a school. Everything that he produces, he sells to a school. So don't even try to process who your customers will be. Just keep talking about what you're doing. Keep telling people who, you then just find people who will be saying, oh, I told my friend, oh, my friend said, and that's how more and more people, you start building your network, and then usually the chefs, the restaurants that also patronize farmers, some of them have discovered the value in having very fresh produce. We also have, shop owners. Another market that we're fast having now are supermarkets. I didn't think a time will come that I'll be selling fresh produce to supermarkets. But now they are the ones wanting, because most supermarkets now have their fresh produce section. There's a particular supermarket we supply sweet corn. We were supplying one branch and we didn't even know they had another branch. Guess what? The customers of the branch that we supply were telling their friends who shop in the other supermarket, their other branch, that the sweet corn they were buying in one branch was better. Can you imagine? So the supermarket didn't have a choice. They had to come back to us that we should please be supplying that other one. Obviously, customers had discussed and realized, that there was some disconnect somewhere. And then maybe it's a general market, because if you feel that the general market is where you would like to play, please just study it very well. Make sure that you have your informants, because the way prices go up and down in that market, you can bag your things and you call in the morning and they tell you something like, oh, be bringing it, it's 8,000 naira per bag. By the time you get there, the vehicle from the north has arrived. It has crashed to 2,000. So for you to sell in the general market, please study it very well. Farmers markets are good. Farmers markets are very good. The beauty of farmers market is that it allows you, yes, it's the result of giving your best to your customers, yes. So farmers markets allows you to connect with people. I have customers who, they've been with me since that time that I sat under umbrella at Adebola shopping mall. When I had these huge, those brollies that people used to use to sell recharge cards. I went to the market, I bought the biggest one, I made the tire thing for it, and we just put it up and we sit under it. I have customers who from that time are still buying from us. So it's very, very important, that you do the things that would help you retain your customers. So when you see retention there, I'm asking, how do you retain your customers? Are you realistic with them? Are you, if you tell them 2 o'clock, is it 2 o'clock? I always tell my staff, if you tell a customer, I'm going to get back to you, please, you must get back. Don't say it out of, oh, I'll get back. You must keep your word. They'll say things like, let's say you want to supply someone and they've not seen you at 2 o'clock and you've always kept to your timing. They say, no, let's wait a bit. I know her, she's not like that. That means you've left them with a good impression. So retention is very key. And please don't hustle. I don't know the word to use, but the way some people, you want to overdo something, it's not worth it. At the end of the day, customers are not blind. They see those who are genuine and all of that. They can see through, And then your revenue, we're still going to get to that portion where I'm going to talk a bit more. Your revenue, how you earn the money. You remember the exercise you did. Let's assume in that exercise you have put 100,000. How you earn it, that revenue is key. So when you sell, you're not selling because they said, you're not selling because they said, oh, this. You're now selling purposefully to see how you're going to make your money at the end of the day. And then referral is very important. Be sure that you are working within that space where people are so impressed with you, they tell their friends. Why I say that I do not know up to half of our customers is because people keep bringing others. There's a particular lady, she said there was a time she wanted something, we didn't have it, and I gave her another person's number. And she called me and said, thank you very much. I'm glad I was able to get what I wanted from the lady you asked me to go to, but I'm glad that I am back with you, Okwe Farms. I'm like, I looked in, she said, yes. She came out very arrogant. I didn't like her. When I speak with you people at Okwe Farms, you're always very warm, very friendly, but she was very standoffish. I had done in fact, the lady said for me to have even introduced her directly, she thought that was so magnanimous of me because I could have gone to the lady, collect it, sell to her. And I don't believe in that. I just thought there's nothing wrong with it. If I didn't offend her, she's likely to come back to Okwe Farms. So please ensure that, you do the things that will make you get referral from your customers. So still talk, and then, yes, I also wanted to share with you, yes, these are the 3 R's I wanted to share with you: retention, revenue, and referral. Now, manpower. This is my current nightmare for my own farm at this point in time. And what happened? We got workers at the beginning of the year. But when trouble started in their home state, guess what? The parents recalled them. So I had almost 10 workers leave at the same time. Of course, I was traumatized. But guess what? The one thing that gave me a bit of assurance was when they called and said I had not offended them, but that their parents were more comfortable seeing them under their roof than having them in Ogun State. So that was why they left. Well, it's one of those things. So when you endeavor to get workers, you need to understand their ways. Of course, for next year, we have decided that we're just going to go back to the people who we used to recruit. No more, because those ones, they come, they do their work. But because of the value of the Naira that keeps falling, the exchange rate, the first set of workers we got from the neighboring countries, when they change our money, they get 3 times their money. So if at the end of the year they're going and all their money amounts to 250,000, when they get to their border and change it, it becomes 750,000 there. Guess what? Now, if they get 250,000 from Nigeria, when they get to their hometown, is about maybe 255,000. So there is no incentive to work in Nigeria. And what it means is that next year, my figures have to go up for salaries. I don't have a choice. Those guys deliver on my own work. I don't have any problems with them. So I'll also share with you, despite the fact that we do not have manpower, the things that have made us successful with them previously were things like our all-level meetings. So what we try to do is once in 2 weeks or once a week, depending on my own timing, we have our all-level meeting where we talk about the farm, we talk about our produce, and guess what? You'll be amazed the kind of knowledge that many of them have. So they will even be the ones to say, oh, let's do this or let's do that, or the farm where I worked before, they come with many, many nice, robust ideas. And it's for you to choose which one would work for you. Another thing you should bear in mind when you're looking for manpower is extra skills. So we got to a point where every worker on the farm can set up an irrigation pipeline. So there's no, to get a plumber in the bush, it was always very tedious. And once there's water problem, work stops. So what we do is that as we recruit, I have HR background, so having to recruit is not a big deal for me. I know the questions to ask and all of that. So what we discover is that if you have skills in other areas, like, yes, you can go on to the next slide. If you have skills in other areas like carpentry, there was a time we had one who was a carpenter, and he trained about 2 others. Even this shed under where we were, he built it. The other shed at the back there, he built it. So, those are the kind of things you can also look out for. And then always make sure that there is a warm, cordial relationship so that it's easy for them to open up and, talk to you. Then you can people are always saying things like, oh, these are illiterate, you can't set targets for them. You can set targets for them. Imagine you say something like, I need 5 beds from each of you before Tuesday next week. If you exceed the 5 beds that I'm asking for, then I am going to give you X naira. Don't make it too much money so that they don't think you are awash with money. So you could say, for every extra bed you make beyond the 5 that I'm asking for, I'm going to give you 500 naira. Do you know there was a day I said something like that? It was crazy. This guy I got to the farm and he had made like 20 beds. I don't think any other person made more than like 1 or 2. So it's possible to set targets for them. It's really, really possible. So please, let's go on to the next one. I've kept all of you here for so long now. Can we still go on? Shall we go on?
Yes, please.
I'm not tired.
No, we're not
I'm
tired.
not tired.
Yes,
Yes.
we are enjoying the class, so please.
Okay, thank you.
We
All
are
right.
enjoying it. Very
Thank you.
Please go on, please go on,
So,
please go on.
All right. So the financial strategy, this one is probably one of the, okay, thank you, Missy. You're not tired. So the financial one, honestly, it's probably one of the biggest. I remembered when I was leaving my former company, and all the programs, thank you, all the programs I went to, we were warned, if you have 5 million to put into your business, please spend 2.5 and save 2.5. For most of us, it came through here and went through there. It's when you lose the money that your eyes will clear. So please, 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 whatever you have, make sure that at least half of it, you have saved it. You know why? Because when you're starting, you hardly know anything. When you now know everything, you probably will not have the money to execute it. So you have to be very, very prudent. Ensure that your financials are key. People also say that when you're starting, don't start with a loan. You know why? Because if you don't know what you're doing, I mean, sometimes I ask myself, if the money I lost in agriculture belonged to somebody else, I won't be sleeping. It's like EFCC coming to knock on somebody's door, you know? But thank goodness. If I, you know, it's one of the things that one of my sisters used to say. She said, sis, let's just be grateful. It's not another person's money, it's your own money. So you need to be very, very, very careful. And one of the things that you have to do, first of all, always have a budget. I know it sounds queer, right? But some of you budget here for the month. I remember one day I was telling, I think it was my dressmaker, and she said, Auntie, the materials that you have with me, I have not made them. I said, please don't make them. I said, why now? I said, because I don't have any money to pay you. I've exhausted my budget for the month. And she was just laughing. I said, you can laugh, but that's the truth. So if you make them, I am not paying. So don't make them. Now, imagine as you do your budget for your everyday activity is how you should do your budget for your production or your processing, whichever one you hold on to. And what do? First of all, calculate your salary. As you are building this budget, how much do you want to pay yourself? How much are the 2 or 3 workers with you? How much do they earn? Another thing I do with manpower, the kind of workers we get, they like to have their money lump sum at the end of the year. So all they collect every month is their feeding allowance. Honestly, is one of the best things that I have done in this, my business. So you know what I do? Every month, I join all these Isusu groups. So I am putting down, if it's 50,000 or whatever, I am putting it there. You will laugh at me. If it's in the bank, we'll spend it. We'll spend it. Because the minute something comes up, you just go and withdraw. But when you are doing all these Ajo, Isusu, and all of that, your month is your month. Me, I've never had one where somebody came and said, I'm sorry. It's not allowed. So it's not even an option. So what I do is I make sure that from January, I'm paying. So by the time they're leaving they normally tend to leave like second week in December. So what I do is I always pick November to collect my money. Now, if the business too has saved, another thing we do is that I have what you call a sub account. The sub account I have doesn't have a card, even though you can see it if you want to see the money there, but it doesn't have a card where you can just go to ATM and withdraw. You will need to physically, online, move the money to your card to do. So what I do is that we don't go there. So what we also do is every week when we sell, we go and drop something there towards salaries, or maybe we want to pay other contractors or that kind of thing. So make sure that you have a budget. So your budget will include the salaries. So if the salaries, if it's something that you don't have to pay like me, then be putting it somewhere so that when they're, because the worst thing you want to do is when your workers are ready to go, you tell them there's no money. Their mentality is different. As far as they are working, they feel that they've earned their pay. It is you who is saying, this thing has 3 months to be ready. How am I going to survive in between? And that's why I tell you that you need to do other things, fill that gap. So you will also calculate fuel. Some people might be lucky and don't have to buy fuel, but from my own budget, we spend nothing less than 120,000 on diesel every month. And that's a good one when the rains are here. When it's dry season is worse because we then have to power the generator to be able to use the drip tapes. Right now, because there's no electricity in the area, the government gave a transformer. For the transformer to work, the community are asking for money. That is not even a big deal because I can always go to the KBAC. Guess what? The disco or whatever they call them that is supposed to install it, they're asking for crazy money. And Abuja is saying, go and get me the name of the person there. And they tell me why they have not fixed it. Well, guess what? Even those who have electricity tell me that the bill they're paying is crazy right now. So I have just decided to leave that transformer and generally working on our generator. What happens is that the generator is only used at night in the rainy season. And once it rains and it's very cool, then they don't even put it on at all. So the rainy season is not too bad for us. So when you do your budget, you've put your salary, you've put your fuel, and what you do is that you document everything you're buying so that at the end of a particular month, you will see how much diesel did we use, how much of this did we do, how much of that. Then, oh, we grew cucumbers, so we bought the white rope, we bought binding wire. Everything you buy, every single thing you buy, you must write it down. Keep it as a record. And when you decide to take a professional accountant, those are all the things they're going to leverage on to be able to decide for you what you're doing. But because you're trying to do your budget now, so you've put your salary, you've put your fuel, even recharge card, because there's some key people on the farm. I top up their phone. And then we have 4 Lagos staff. We actually have almost 6, but 4 are permanent, 2 are contractors. They come only on delivery days to come and help us do packaging and all of that. So every money you're spending, you must put it down. Now, I'll tell you the beauty of it, the materials you use. Then you also need to anticipate those who will come and do repairs for you. So it's better that nothing happens and you don't have to spend it than for you to box yourself in and not have allowance for it. Like today now, somebody calls me, oh ma, they have to remove some shelves somewhere and go and relocate it to another place. The carpenter wants 2,500. As small as it sounds, imagine every month of the year you spend that kind of money. It amounts to something at the end of the year. So please make sure you have your budget. Now, when you have your budget, I would now tell you how you are going to work on it. So Doc, let's have the next slide, please. So this is an exercise, how you make the money for the business. I had shown you some of the things. I showed you honey, I showed you the chicken, the tea, the fresh produce, and the spices. So you can imagine now that there is no manpower on the farm and we're producing far less than we should. What do you think is sustaining us? Our processed items. So you must diversify whichever way. You can't say, oh, my focus is that. Look at that. 10 workers, they leave the farm, and all the companies we supply, we have not even gone there, because I'd rather supply my individual homes than tell all those people who look forward to my produce at the weekend that I have sold everything I have, I've carried to juice company. That would be very, very stupid of me. Do you know that the supermarkets we supply, I've never walked into a supermarket to apply, oh, I want to sell. I got them through my customers. So they're vital to my business. They might be individuals. Sometimes it's even the customer who spends the least, who brings you your biggest customer. So make sure that everybody, you just treat them right. So let's look at this XYZ farm and visualize how they want to make that money. Let's say the budget, the kind of budget they have is maybe it's amounted to about, plus salary plus everything, let's say 60,000 naira. Your own salary, you want to pay yourself 50,000, that's 110. Then you want to keep a little bit for all those exigencies that you didn't plan for. Anyway, in short, let's say you need to make 150,000 naira for the month. It is now up to you to decide which one will earn what. So by that time, you already know that the average vegetables that you sell will fetch you probably about, let's say you're doing very well and the vegetables will fetch you about 70,000. You are still short because I think we calculated maybe 150,000 or 160,000. Where will the rest come from? It is at that point you need to start thinking of the other things that will make up for it. Sometimes it is best when they are related. It is best when those things are related. For instance, these are essential oils. These are essential oils that have been extracted from lemongrass, from eucalyptus. We all know that these are very expensive. So you can imagine if you have the facility to also extract this or do something else. It could be something else. It could be even the plantain that you decided to process. Because if you go to the market, there was a time when they said a bunch of plantain was 4,000 naira. I mean, of course, I'm a farmer, so I didn't know. But guess what? You now take that same plantain, you slice it, you dry it, you turn it to powder, and you tell people this is plantain flour, zero chemical. If you are not certified as organic, please don't call it organic. Zero chemical, zero synthetic input, that, and then you put a price on it. You can then visualize how much of it you need to sell to make up your money from 70 to 160. Or maybe there's even a limit to that one. You find another thing again. And that's why I put item A, item B, item C, so that you have at least 3 streams of income, 3 things that can generate that money for you. There are times when I'm sitting down wondering how I'm going to go and harass my husband for money to pay salary. And then somebody calls me, oh, we would like you to be a part of a panel discussion. Well, we don't have money. Well, we're going to give you an honorarium of 100,000 naira. How do you think I feel? My head is already going, wow, great. At least some people will get their money. So it's very, very important that you diversify and always think in terms of that. So Doc, let's move on. And in doing this, please, your low-hanging fruits are very important. So for you to actually be successful, please explore your other interests. I have, because by virtue of the fact that I won't keep quiet, organic. I mean, I have also names. But guess what? When people are looking for people to talk about organic, they come and meet me. They ask me to come and tell them. So you might want to consider other things, your other interests. In fact, there are quite a number of things that people are capable of doing that they've never really attached to their agri business. So let's say you are a very good content writer. When I write all the posts on Okwe Farms, all the posts at Okwe Farms on Instagram, every single post. There was a time I was looking for a digital marketer to help me. Do you know, I must have interviewed over 10 people. The minute they go and read my post, you know what they come back and tell me? Ah, man, the way you write, it looks like it's unique to you. So I then realized that Okwe Farms, it will probably always be my job. Now imagine I have 2 other people who come and meet me and say, can you write for my page? And we agree. I don't come cheap. I want X thousand naira of money per this number of posts. You will be earning extra. I won't do it though. I'm busy enough. I'm even too busy. In fact, even if somebody wanted to pay me 100,000 to write their content right now, I can't do it. I don't have the time. But I'm just giving you ideas of ways in which you can earn extra. You probably will be surprised that an organic farmer, you're asking me to go and you will need it because there are going to be those low moments. You know, what we're doing by growing food is not in our hands. It's not in our hands at all. A lady called me sobbing about 4 or 5 days ago. Guess what? Monkeys had entered her farm and eaten all her corn. I mean, she was expecting about 500 kg. Even I was sobbing with her because, I mean, she just went on and on. Me that I was saying, sorry, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, because it was too much. It was a lot to bear. So I always say that you must find other landing, look for other soft landings as you go through that opportunity and the effort that you're trying to put out there. So let's go on. I'll show you the other things that I do. Because I train women at home. My first training was 2015. 2015, I was looking for, I think I ordered 15 chairs. No, I ordered 12 chairs. There were 3 chairs extra in the room. So I had 15 chairs. By the day before, 20-something people had signed up. On the day of, so I increased the chair. Guess the chairs. By that day itself, more people, and I kept on saying, please, no walking. This is to enable us to plan for your food, it's a lie. We had 35 attendees. 35 attendees. That was all we had. But what I did, because I don't believe in me alone. If you look at the photograph that says training, the lady to your left, the one that packed her hair in one, is next generation farmer, Kofo. Kofo is young. So when I was planning that training, I wanted resource people. I used age, I used experience, there were so many things I used. And because I had seen the audience and realized that many of them were young people, of course, when they all came, they just gravitated towards her. And I was happy because it was a robust audience. So as you plan all these things, don't do it such that, oh, it must be you alone. Somebody said, only, is there only something? You can think of other people, even if you have to give them a little something. I don't believe in bringing people into things and every time it's free. Soon they will all leave because they'll just say, oh, you just go there, talk, there's nothing for you there. So as you plan it, if genuinely you don't, because if it's a training and people are paying, no matter how small, you can also give back to the faculty members that you bring in, so that as you grow, you have those, there's hardly anyone that I can, for instance, we're supposed to have a training, as in physical training of hands-on and all of that. And all the people I'm bringing in, I'm already talking money with them. It might not be large, but at least if you come in, I'm going to get them accommodation, I'm going to all of that. So at least there's that level of trust and commitment. So when you build your network, don't waste your equity by always asking, for free. Have something, even if it's a gift. For instance, I hold monthly talks. Those monthly talks, people come, they talk to my customers and all of that. But guess what? I buy them batik. I have a sister who makes batik. I buy them the batik. If I always give her instructions, oh, I know this person, looks like this person has this taste, and I package it and give them. It's not something they cannot afford, but at least they're happy to have something, So that is the reason why I also sell garden tools, because I already have my market for it, and of course, other things from the farm, they can always buy. We also do contract farming. This particular photograph is our wild rocket. For about a year, we supplied a sandwich bar. What I love about the rocket salad, it has this peppery, it's like you put pepper in your sandwich. So it has a peppery thing about it. And this company was taking from us twice a week for that period. So those things, all those kind of contract farming, they bring you lump sum, or you're able to supply someone. Like the year when we were supplying the juice bars and all, they gave us, like we were able to put a bit of money together. And of course, another thing you have to plan for, you will always need money, either to expand and that kind of thing. I'll talk about that soon. So the training, that's the training. When you do training, make it very robust, make it comfortable, have people who know more than you. Don't say, oh, I'm just going to tell them the little I know. Try and bring in somebody who they can also gravitate towards, talk to them and, you know, chat with them. They will always remember that you added value. This particular training, I think at the time people paid, I can't remember whether they paid 15,000 naira or so, but guess what? By the time we fed them, I even did notepads. It was my first one. I was so excited. I did notepads and gave them. At the end of the day, my accountant said I didn't make any money, but I had won the trust and confidence of everybody that attended. And of course, I do digital marketing. I blog at Sisimi Blog. My blog, I don't know what happened. It just disappeared into thin air about 2 years ago. And I was so disappointed because it was beginning to get popular, you know. But now I'm going back to it. I do digital marketing. I do affiliate for some people. So all these things just keep me occupied. I have 3 days. Before I used to go to the farm like 4 days in a week. I then reduced it to like 3 days in a week. And sometimes I even do 2 now that we don't even have enough workers. But when we have the normal staffing, I love to take part and see what they do. And another thing, your knowledge, you know, we have talked about that knowledge thing. When your workers know that you know, they don't joke with you. But when they see that you don't know anything, you'll be in trouble. So as much as possible, make sure that you are, you know, very sound, you're out there and you can share. In fact, mine, sometimes they tell me things like, so why we go get manager? If you know all these things, I'll just be laughing. I don't live on the farm. I need somebody to take charge, you know, and be there for me. So let's go on to the next slide, Doc. I want to talk about the funding requirement. You will always need money. And that's why all those other things I do on the side. Sometimes, you know, it's one thing to keep reading, come and take loan. I mean, we're one country where everybody is talking about you coming to take a loan. Nobody is talking of how, let's say, for instance, you take a loan. The value of the naira is depreciating every day. So you take a loan today, by the next day, the value is gone. Now, the photo inside here was when we had to build our water reservoir. We had massive water issue. And I looked and just realized that, you know what? I must get money to do this thing. Today, this is a reservoir. We have, I think we store about 90,000 liters of water in here now. One of it we use for, it feeds the plants, like plant food. But the other 3 is water. Now, this came up and it was like, it could not wait. I just had to build this. It was an expansion, which was very necessary, but also an investment that was critical. Luckily enough, GT, which is one of our banks, they have these, it's like a food loan or something like that. That loan is actually meant for people who sell food every day. You know, those who sell food every day, they're taking money to the bank. They cook, they distribute, they go to the bank. Agric is not like that. Every seed you put in the ground, you must wait. I didn't have a choice. I had to take that loan to build this. But you know what it also meant? I was on top of my game. Nobody was going to do away with my 1 naira because it was a loan and I knew I had to repay it. In fact, my account officer, anytime she calls me, I say, please don't call me because of that money. She said, no, because you also had the opportunity of paying it back in installment. But what it meant was that we had to work extra hard, make extra monies from here and there, because I think we're prepaying about 360 something thousand per month. It was tough. I couldn't even think of taking any, luckily enough, my lifestyle doesn't support all those going to do Ashwebi and all those. I don't do it. So, and I know how to keep myself very humble when the situation calls for it. So try to look into other ways, develop other interests. If there are skills or things that you've been very good at, but you just thought was latent. You don't, I know how to do it. I like it, I enjoy it, but when you are doing agric and you know that you need money, all those things, you will have to tap into them. You tap into them. So just have other things that are, bringing in, something here and there. And then it's always good if you can consider those things ahead. So you know the areas to study and focus on in your plans. So like e.g. the next quarter, for instance, we have already on our plans for next year, we need another borehole. The borehole we've been using for the past about 6 years, even though it's an industrial borehole, it can no longer serve. We keep expanding, we keep going that way. So we need another one. And because of, you can see the depth of this thing. We are on a hill. So our borehole goes much, we have to do an industrial borehole. When people, I have a lady in Ado-Ekiti, she tells me that she has about 5 boreholes and each one costs her 90,000 naira. I always look at her, I say, I wish I could move my farm to Ado-Ekiti. And we just laugh over it. So those are the things you also have to bear in mind. The cost of doing business where you are. Sometimes the cost of doing business where you are is very expensive. And sometimes the cost of doing business where you are is very cheap. So for instance, when I mingle, there's a school, I go to a farmer's school in Ibadan. And when I get there, when they're talking about money, I'm always looking at them. When they buy something and they're telling you the price, inside my head, I'm going, in Lagos, you have to pay like 3 times that price. But I find out that the cost of doing business there is not as high as the cost of doing business in Lagos. But thank goodness, even though we farm in Ogun State, our market is really in Lagos. So there's still a bit of balance, So always think ahead. You can even list everything that you will ever need to do. Just list them. And then you start seeing which one is more necessary at this point in time. Don't rush for everything. For instance, we produce spices. We just bought our own milling machine. I mean, we started thank you very much. We started last year with the spices, but I didn't rush to go and buy the machine. You know why? I wanted to be sure that we're going to have the right market, because spice is taste. If you roll it out there and people don't gravitate towards it, then you're in trouble. I have a niece who is a fantastic cook. I have a feeling that girl is still going to be a chef after university. Guess what? If she does an analysis, it's only that I cannot put her on social media. If this girl analyzes our spice, she actually goes like, this one, it's very good for that. Just put that. That one is very, Now that we have our market, we even had to do our barcode very recently because somebody even in the UK is insisting. Somebody gave her and she has a store. She's not saying, no, you must bring your, I must display it, I must sell it. Now I have the confidence to buy that milling machine. What we tend to do in agric is that before you even anticipate whether that thing is going to succeed or not, you're already going to buy the machine. I have the money, let me just buy the machine now. You then buy the machine and the product is not flying off the shelves. What do? So it's always better sometimes to just gradually, and then if you know somebody who is doing it, you might also ask them a few more questions before you rush and buy the thing, and then you realize that it's not serving any purpose for you. So that is very important. And funding, it will always be a requirement. So I urge you to just take it in your stride. If you can raise money from people who trust you and you can earn some kind of integrity, then do so. But otherwise, go gently, go slowly. You can even do buy and sell while you're trying to raise the money. If you want to do a particular thing, you can offtake from somebody else, sell it, make a little money, and do that over time to build a bit of capital, because you will always need money. And don't rush to have, huge loans that become kind of nightmarish for you. Technical. There's so much under technical. We've touched on it, buying, some buying the right tools, technical, even technology generally. I was discussing with someone recently. I said, he builds apps. And I said, do you know that one of these days, I might just need an app for Okwe Farms? And he looked at me like, what is it going to do for you? By the time I started talking, he said, oh, really? They're beginning to make sense. You know, but of course, I can only start talking about an app for Okwe Farms now because I've reached that level of understanding. But anything that would make your work smarter, please consider it. Consider it, anything that will make your work smarter. But for now, I think in terms of software and things like that, your Excel can still work for most of what you do. For instance, I can tell you every week, I can, if you ask me what I have produced this year so far, I can tell you, oh, I've done this kg of this, I've done, because I'm just using an Excel spreadsheet. We're making sure that every week, and it's now on Google Docs. So the guy who is my business manager, he has access to it. I have access to it. Sometimes when we have two ladies who work with us in the shops, they also want to know, oh, I mean, how well have I done so far? You know, they can go there and see, oh, I've been able to sell this quantity of honey. I've been able to sell this quantity of chicken. Sometimes we even look and say, come, what happened this particular period? And I say, oh, the farm didn't did the dada, or oh, Mr. James was one that sold in most of it to his customers. I didn't get any. So it helps you to do a lot more. Even the normal tools you use. Sometimes you might even, there was a time I looked at a particular tool that we're using on the farm, and I said, wait a minute, what if we made the hand of this thing bigger? And everybody say, hey, they've never seen it like that before. I said, it doesn't mean that we can't try it. And then I just gave it to a welder. You know, I think I went to Woody Oniri and I said, I want this thing, do it like this. Do you know, now is the one everybody wants to use. So we're now having to, even to take it as a sample, to go and make new ones is a problem. So you need to keep thinking, how can things be, how can things work better? There was a particular time, my daughter is a chartered accountant. She's an accountant. Yes, she's a chartered accountant. She came home and we were working. And then she said, she was looking at us, even though she joined us, but most times she just looked at us like, guess what? When we finished and everybody tired, they've gone to do delivery, she said, Mom, the way you're working is not working. It's too cumbersome. I'm like, really? How do we do it? Then she said, if you put this and do that and that, you know, just by tweaking, listening to her and tweaking some of those processes, things got better. So even the staff, I'm always telling them, if there are things that you think we can do better, tell us. Or if there are things customers tell you, tell me, so that we can all know. So with technology, there's so much that you can achieve just by fine-tuning. Even if you can't fine-tune, now, this is my dream. This is my dream, is a BCS. I don't want China. I don't want China. I want this one. This is what I have it, you know, I have it on my wall and I look at it every time. This is a workhorse. You have this and it cuts out, I think it cuts out the work of about 3 or 4 people on the farm. There's hardly anything this machine can't do for you. So I always like to put it in my presentations just to make myself happy. I think it's about $4,000 or $5,000 with some of the parts. But you know, as an organic farmer, it's very good because it's not a big tractor that is going to, you know, spoil your soil and all of that. It's very light and it has other attachments. It can help you shred the waste on the farm and all of that. You know, I've even had someone who brought their drone to the farm. I was so excited that day. I really liked it. It was free. The guy just said, Ma, I like you and I would like to do something for you. I said, really, what would you want to do for me? He said, can I go to the farm with you? And I set out my drone and we can see all of the farm. But guess what? Not only just the show of lovely picture and all of that, they were able to tell me that our soil is a BCS. If you check on the internet, it's just a BCS. Yes, there's a company that sells it. So with these, yes, the BCS hand tractor, with his drone, he was able to tell us that, oh, wow, your farm, the land is, and that is one thing I keep telling myself. Of my own strength, it's our soil. Our soil is very rich. In fact, my late uncle, he's late now, he used to be a farmer, and he said, you know, please do not let anybody ever come and put synthetic fertilizer on this soil. I said, Uncle, it can only happen when I'm dead. For as long as I'm alive, once we even recruit, and that's another thing I'm sharing with you, we sit down our workers and tell them what we stand for. We just tell them. And guess what? Your worker will not use their money to go and buy chemical to spray on your farm. They don't think like that. They can't spare their penny. But we tell them what we stand for, and it is not allowed. Don't even dream it. Don't even suggest it that you go and buy one chemical and spray something, you know? So those are all the things that you also need to educate your workers on. And then if there are penalties, I forgot, under manpower, if there are, you need to set penalties in place. If people don't feel that you're going to penalize them for what they do, they will keep doing it. So when there are penalties for those things, and penalize them for the things that hurt them the most, the things that hurt them the most. So if, for instance, there's something you let them do that they all like, there was a time I actually bought a table tennis table for my workers, you know, and I don't know what they did one time. I just removed the net. I just removed the net and I took it away. I took the net and the bats or whatever and the balls. And of course, maybe they'll be looking at the table. When they now all came round, apologized and begged, and then returned it to them. So sometimes you just penalize them with things that, and another thing I always beg people, please don't talk at your workers. Don't talk at them. Address the issue. Let it be all of you that are asking for this machine, do you want to buy it for me? So make sure that you address the issue. Please don't talk at them. So if the person has done something wrong, then zone in to what the person did wrong. Please don't start saying you, this, you, just address what that person has done and let it be, you know, the key thing rather than talk at them. They are also human beings. And don't forget that many of them are away from their own families. You will leave the farm and go to the warm comfort of your family. Then you have lambasted the guy and abused the hell out of him, and you've left him downcast on the farm. And others are having to help you cheer him up. So as much as possible, always address the issue. Don't bring him in. Don't make him feel lesser than he is. Now, distribution. Distribution is a whole lot. How will your goods get to your customers? Cold chain, road transport, your packaging, your branding. I had touched a bit on your branding. All of those things matter. Even when you deliver to your customers, make sure that it looks appealing, it looks decent. Sometimes sometimes I see some things on social media and I just wonder what about delay? So I'll take questions later. Let's just finish. We're about finishing now. So one of the things that I worry is you know, sometimes I even wonder why we show some of those things, because I just feel that if you don't have any posts, don't post. Oh, if you don't have anything to post, don't post for post's sake. I've seen big farms tell me things like, oh, they've worked very hard today and they are tired. And then they're showing me a very untidy kitchen with produce, unsold produce on the floor. I mean, in these days where we're all learning global gap and all of those things are good agricultural practice, it's not by force. Don't show things because you always think ahead. What would this do for my brand? Very, very important. So distribution is a whole lot. How to get those things to your customers. Please use crates. Gone are those days when people will use baskets, use crates. to do your deliveries, use crates to harvest, even if it means buying 2 every month, be buying them little by little. And there's a guy who owns a factory. He's on one of my groups, and he'll give you the phone number of the guy in charge. You go there and buy your crate. I mean, I'm always buying crates. I've always used crates. I have crates of 5, 6, 7 years. The best thing is to buy the good quality ones. And of course, you buy the ones that sometimes they just spoil. And in distribution, another thing that I tend to tell people, if you can get an outlet of your own, is a very, very good example. You know, I didn't set out to have a store, but now that we have that store, I always tell people, if that opportunity arises, or maybe you live in a place where you can, as somebody once said, cut a hole out of the fence without the local government coming for your jaws, then do so. Because even though we supply people at the end of the week, it means that every day of the week, people can walk into our shop, our store, and buy things. So it's not out of place to look for, you know, a way whereby you have your own distribution channel. Now, this is our Ikeja store. We no longer pile vegetables like this anymore because we realize that most people still shop towards the end of the week. And we do not have a chiller that is small enough, a vegetable chiller that is small enough for that space. It's the kind of thing that if we had more fabricators, then we will be having things that are just right for our own size, but we don't. So we don't do this anymore. We now just sell on Friday. So you might get to the store and not find anything there. It's deliberate, because if you stock up like this and nobody comes in to buy, then you're in trouble. So we don't stock up like that anymore. We only do it on Fridays. And that's me in the center. That was the day we opened the store. We've since changed the name. It's now Okwe Farms Organic Mart. And it was one of my mentors that said, come, even people who are not organic are naming their shops organic. And you set up a store just to sell your own organic produce and you don't use organic in it. No, you've got to change the name. So we went back and the guy had to come and change everything to Okwe Farms Organic Mart. So in the mart, we sell our drinks. We make ginger drink, Zobo drink. Last year, we planted our own Zobo because we have customers who are very sensitive. So they say, no, if we're going to buy Zobo drink from you, we would like to know that, you know, it's the kind that they should be comfortable with. So we planted our own Zobo last year. So the Zobo drinks we made last year were actually from our own Zobo. We lost our ginger, but now we're replanting ginger again. So because it's a store, if we don't sell in one day, we sell our drinks. We sell drinks, and we only sell natural drinks. So we don't sell all the regular popular drinks. It's not our focus. We don't want to sell those sugar drinks. So people can buy them elsewhere, but we don't want to be known for selling, oh, you want to buy a bottle of so and so, oh, go to, It's not our focus at all. So this particular slide came from my presentation at the World Organic Conference on the 10th of September. The topic of my discussion was open for business. And I spoke about how we went from selling on the street market at Oyigbo to going to the car park at Adebola. And today we own a store at Adebola. So, I mean, the story was quite interesting to them. And it was one of those that were picked for me to talk about. So I just took this whole slide from there to share with you. And I think we are just about rounding up. So you have another exercise. You've heard me speak for well over an hour. What are you going to commit to? And please write it now and here. I tell you why. I'm an HR practitioner. Most times when we leave trainings, it's either we say, oh, the knowledge will be useful. I will think about it. I've written it down. No, I saved the recording. And guess what? What happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So when I go for trainings, right there at that training, the things that jump out to me, I write them down. And I suspect that in all the time I have spoken, you will be able to choose at least 5 things to commit to. If anybody can share theirs, that would be nice. It will make me happy to know that somebody can actually go away with 5 things to commit to. Do we have any volunteer who would share with us? You just might win my spice if you're in Lagos. I can't spend spice outside Lagos. The cost of transport will be more than the spice. So 5 personal commitment. Even as I was speaking with you, there were things that had occurred to me and I had quickly scribbled down. Documentation, yes, documentation, very key. Writing, even if it's just a book in your bag and you're just writing everything down. Yes, record keeping. 5 things. Diversity, yes, diversity, yes. Diversity of your production. Is there anybody who has listed 5?
We still don't have anyone that have listed a whole 5, or not just one. 5.
No, I want 5. Planning my farm processes, yes. I want to see a list of 5.
Okay.
Yes, record keeping, research, mentorship, due diligence, a good farm plan. Wonderful, wonderful. Proper documentation. Don't spend until it goes to, oh yes, don't. Every penny goes to the, my staff always, they always, even if it's 500, I remember a lady, she was owing us, she had paid and forgot to pay the total sum. So there was 500 naira on it. I said, wait, when you have money to take to the bank, add the 500 naira to it, take it to the bank. I go like, I said, yes, let it go to the bank. I know what that does for your turnover is that when the bank, I remember once, social media etiquette, yes, please, farm workers relationship, mentorship, budgeting, beautiful. Missy, lawyer, gain more knowledge, have other source of income, know more about your produce, build my network, customer relationship. Excellent, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, I think
Staff retention strategy, technology-driven farm, planning, budgeting, motivation, referral. Yes, Doc, go on.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if this could, I know we've spent 3 hours.
If you gave me a whole day, I'll still be talking.
So maybe we could take 1 or 2 questions before we go. I know it's getting late in over
yes.
There. If you have questions, you
can. There was a question before that I said we'll take later. I don't know if you can just scroll up. The lady had asked a question.
Yeah, that's from the person who read me note 7. So we don't have. Is that what about delaying their salaries or even short pay? Then what do you think about it? That's about workers, punishment, penalties for law and things like that. If they, they broke one of the rules or instructions.
I'll tell you what we did on the farm. And is another thing I was actually going to tell you, yes, we take trainees. I was actually going to tell you under manpower. Now, if you have penalties, don't say it with mouth only. So, well, our shed is broken now, but in that shed where we have a common space where we all sit. I mean, if I sit there, of course, some of them will want to sit like far away. But I have to tell them they should feel free to sit down there. We have water. We have a water dispenser there. We have a sink where you can wash your hands. So it's like a hub. It's like a hub. We have cups. Well, the place is broken now. We have cups. So you get there, you wash the cup, you use it, you hang it back. And that's our hub. Because it's our hub, we now have the penalty. I put it there. So if you come late, something, if you do this, that. So don't throw surprises at them. if you short pay someone, that person is going to be so, they're not going to do the work the way you want it. But if my farm is not fenced, I can't afford it. So if that person, for instance, we don't allow smoking because we're an organic farm. You can't come and smoke on it's not possible. We had 2 workers who, when they first came, I could tell by their physique that they were smokers. Now, yes, we insure the farm. The minute I saw them, I suspected they were smokers, and we had a penalty. It's a very heavy, in fact, our penalty is to discourage you from smoking. That means we don't want you to smoke at all. So what we now did, we were increasing our lemongrass because lemongrass became a very fast product for us. So we're expanding where we had the lemongrass. They were the first 2 to jump at it. And I knew when they jumped at it, I knew why they did so. They wanted to be away from me, away from where I will see them because they're smokers. And I can smell a smoker like a mile away. So anytime they smoke, they will not come to work because they know I will smell it on them. And the penalties were increasing. The penalty got to a point where they had no choice but to leave. So let your penalty be known, be in writing, and you'll be surprised how cheap these things are. A synthetic farmer that wants to go organic, how do we balance up in terms of profits as we're going to the same market and organic is more expensive to run? I don't know if organic is more expensive to run. No. I don't really know if it's more expensive to run. The only thing I can tell you is that I feel that it's a waste of my effort to produce and go to the general market to sell. And that is why I built my clientele among people who I can deliver to their homes. For me, as an organic farmer, I told you my why. The reason why I produce organic is because it's a wellness that matters to me. It is not these people are making millions and all of that. If I'm making millions and people are falling sick, I'm not going to enjoy that because that's my own why. So it's not even a topic for discussion that I thought you were going to ask how long it takes to convert. It takes 3 years to convert. Before then, maybe you can be planting in bags and things like that. So I'm not going to the same market as those who produce conventionally. I'm not in the same market with them. And my own customer have gotten to a stage where they've put value on what I produce over what others produce. There are people who will tell me things as simple as if they eat something, their chest burns, this, and then they eat your own is fine. So those are the things that I've used to build my market. I'm selling benefits. I told you in one of my slides, I said, I sell the benefit of what I produce. And that is what brings me the customers. So I don't go, bagang, this is organic, you must buy it. And I just tell you the beauty of it. I have a cancer, I have an oncologist. I've never met her before in my life, never. The number of customers she sends to us, she's always just sending customers to me. In fact, I've been trying to remember those who came through her so that I can even call her one day and thank her. This is over 3 years. I don't know her. She doesn't know me either, but she believes in me. So it depends on where you want to play, really. It depends on where you want to play. You've got to make up your mind whether that's what you want or not. Because we know that synthetic farming is high yield than organic farming. I didn't see the beginning, I didn't see the beginning of that. As a synthetic farmer,
I think I could read from here.
Okay.
That's from Elizabeth, right?
Okay. Can you read it?
Okay.
I think I've missed it.
As a synthetic farmer that want to go organic, how do we balance up in terms of profit as we are going to the same market and organic is more expensive to run? Then Coyote also asking for similar question. How can one increase the yield and productivity of organic farming Is there any innovation on that? Because we know that synthetic farming is higher yield than organic farming. And then there is Redmi Notes. The person still didn't put a name. That can we use organic as pesticide, herbicides, and insecticide? If yes, what is the name of the plant? I could talk to some of these, ma'am, but especially some of the other ones. But if you want to go ahead with the first, and go ahead, ma'am.
Well, one thing I had said before, what is your why? Even as you consider now, oh, from synthetic, you want to go to organic, what is your why? I have shown you how we balance up when it comes to making money. Every leaf on my farm has value because I'm an organic farmer. I do not even compete. I don't know, maybe I'm just in my own bubble. I don't even think of what others are doing. I'm sorry, I don't think of what others are doing. I have my focus, I have my niche. I'm not even measuring. If somebody is making millions from a produce that is getting people sick in hospital, how does that become something I want to even measure with? So I'm sorry, there's just no, there's no room for it. I have pushed myself to that point where there's hardly anything I produce that I cannot sell. Hardly. Sometimes I move up to 120 kg of, let's say, tomatoes in one weekend. Yes, I didn't get there overnight, but I'm telling you that I had to build it on trust. So for me, I don't even see a comparison between synthetic and organic in terms of wanting to measure for market. I even mentioned to you that what we do when we're trying to meet our demand is that we produce more. I did mention that in one of my slides. We just add to it so that if anything happens, we know that, and then we have decided the quantity that we want to produce. I don't know if you understood that when I was trying to talk to you about your production schedule and all of that. So if I feel that I want 100 kg, I know that even if I try for 120, and there are times, this was it last, oh, it was this year. It was this year we celebrated our milestone. We harvested 380 something kg of sweet corn at once. I mean, that was a feat for us. I mean, I felt so proud of myself. Yes, doing organic is not a walk in the park because you're not just, I mean, you can't just fill something with something, spray everything. And I remember a gentleman, he's a consultant, he's a friend of the farm. So he came one day and he saw us spraying. We spray our sweet corn like every three days or every 4 days. And he said, Madam, all this hassle for what? I said, don't worry. Whatever price I put on my sweet corn, my customers buy because they appreciate the effort that has gone into it. He said, there's a chemical I can give you. If you put it today, these things are just 2 weeks old, right? If you put it today, you won't come back until harvest time. I said, I'm sorry. It's not my focus. So you first of all need, that was why I took you through all those mindsets and all of that. You've got to really believe in yourself that it is what you can do. I started with nothing. I didn't even, for me, I've never even slept and woken up and said something about yield because that's not my focus. I don't care if they harvest a ton. I don't. Because my why is far different from that. And I have shown you, even this slide that is open, you can see all the other things that I'm able to come up with. So I am not basing everything on just one thing. And is this the same society that tells you there is food wastage? Now then wakes up and tells you that organic cannot feed the world. How do you marry the two together? You need to go to mile 12 in the evening. You will weep for all the things that they're just going to trash there. You go there in the evening, you will see food wastage at its peak.
Yeah, there is a lot of assumptions, wrong assumptions that are based on, that are not really rooted in fact. And that's why I love one of the things you talked about earlier on, in the mindset.
The mindset.
The business of organic, when you take it as a business, it's quite different from the way, maybe our forefathers do farming.
Oh, yeah.
It means you have to think through the whole process of the farming. It's not just the production, because you are producing a value. So
the value.
because you are producing a value, you have to know your customer, the people you are producing that value for. So it is not just about, okay, I want to plant corn. It's that's only one element within the whole business cycle. So I've seen a lot of questions also about yield, about this, about that. One of the things I've come to realize from my interaction, or what is unique about organic farming is knowledge intensive. When it comes about being competitive in terms of profitability, it's actually one of the most profitable, especially within the cycle, with some of the things in Nigeria that I can talk about specifically, because we have a relatively cheaper cost of labor compared to other countries. And because of that, if you are somebody who understands the business and who understands the market, and you are ready to put everything in it to create that market, it becomes even much more competitive than you are planting 20 acres of corn or 100 acres of corn. And so, but the challenge is, it is knowledge intensive. You have to invest in the knowledge of the production, understand pest management, the cycle of the pest, understand the nutrients, understand also the customer. When you can marry all of this together, it becomes a very much more competitive area of business, especially for young people. But it's not a quick money making machine. Like Mr. Werimo have said today, it takes time to build it, which is also one of the reasons why the transition to organic takes about 3 years. Because you have to build the soil, you have to build the system to be able to manage pests naturally as easy as possible. So, which is one of the reasons why we have this kind of organic farming masterclass, because it's knowledge intensive. You have to invest in that knowledge. I think we have a number of people here that are not on the track with the organic farming masterclass.
Maybe they should, because the kind of questions I'm seeing here shows that there are people who actually need your training. I'm saying, can we use neem plant? Pesticide, herbicide.
So we are opening up the masterclass again. I could talk a little bit. So you're going to receive an email by tomorrow with the link, and also a way through which you can register to learn more about all of those courses. Women has taken us through what in terms of the strategies of how do you run the business, right? Learning things about your marketing, about your distribution, about your production, all those strategies that are very critical. However, within the masterclass is the how, because you have to talk about how do you manage pests, how do you manage soil, how do you deal with even some of the things within the marketing systems, the how of it. So the irrigation systems. So I will really employ everyone here who is not in the masterclass to really take advantage of it.
Take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. Then you will understand more. You will understand more. Somebody is talking about the causes of crystallization in honey. Honey is natural sugar. Honey is natural sugar. So crystallizing is not a big deal. I have customers who are always complaining, oh, if you put honey in a place where there is heat, it will crystallize. But hey, if you put it back in like warm water, it will dissolve again. It's natural sugar, and crystallization is normal. It's normal, it's possible. So tell your customers, you need to educate them what it is and what is not. Even you can do a little handbill, you know, the myths about honey, and then demystify it for them.
Yeah.
Somebody's talking about livestock. No, we didn't talk about livestock today, and it's deliberate. If you join the master class, there is a session on livestock and the use of natural remedies and all of that. Even I attended one of the sessions on that. There was something else that took my interest. What practical ways can a medium-scale conventional farmer transit to organic? You will learn that in the master class. It's 3 years to convert. It takes 3 years because it's believed that all those chemicals and synthetics will not leave the soil until about 3 years. Even the 3 years, ideally you should test your soil and be sure that you're good to go. You know. Copy of the recording. The doctor will take care of that. Do we take trainees? Yes, we do, but they have to apply. Is your farm fenced? No, my farm is not fenced. Do you want to come and fence it for me, Miss Esther Echo? Yes, it's good to insure your farm. It's good to insure your farm. Do you take student coppers? Yes, we do, to the available space. How can one increase the yield? No, we've talked about that. Any more questions that we haven't?
Mary Becca, you raised your hand earlier on if you're still there.
Somebody's saying share more light on GMO. I'm an organic farmer. Waiting concern Agbero for overload.
Yeah. I think we've talked, that's one of the reasons why you might want to be in the organic farming masterclass. A lot of times people define organic by what it's not. Let's talk about what it is. What it is about building a robust systems, about building resilience in your farm, about save food for the planet. That's what it's all about. So yeah, there are a number of questions there that I think are best for platforms. There are questions that are answered within the masterclass that you can learn more within. So I don't know if there's anyone that have a.
How do you solve the problem of workers running away? There's hardly anything you can do about that, but it depends on the kind of community where you find yourself. In my own community, the ballet wields a lot of power and is a friend of the farm. So what we do is that if we have workers, in fact, just be a friend to your workers. Somebody will come and hint you that somebody wants to run away. And honestly, if they want to run away, there's nothing much you can do. They go, as long as they don't steal your things. It's difficult because if you keep somebody against their will, then their productivity will drop and they will not, then knowing the fact that organic agriculture is labor intensive, can we employ technology and still be profitable? Why not? Yes, you can afford the technology, of course you can.
Yeah, so that's another myth as there too, thinking that organic does not
want technology. I even have a sprayer. I have a sprayer that is 160 liters. It's on wheels. You have to wheel it around to use it.
Yeah. So organic does not say you should not have technology. You had on our farms, we have drip irrigation systems that you could have use of drone. Technology can help enhance.
Oh yes, definitely.
Make things better. Sure. Tochukwu, you've been raising your hand for a while.
Oh, please talk. You can talk.
Go ahead, Tochukwu. You are muted. If you are speaking, we can't hear you.
Somebody is saying, do we have a program to catch the young in secondary schools? If you want us to do that, we would. I also have a partner here that I can drag along, Missy Additional. I can drag her along.
Yes. Can I talk now?
Okay, he's here. Okay, hello, how are you?
I am fine. Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for the robust training and the lecture you've been giving to us now for close to 2.5 hours. I appreciate your time and your efforts. May God continue to bless you. Thank you. I wanted to know whether your farm is into mushroom, and do we have organic kind of mushroom? Because I developed interest in cropping mushroom.
Mushroom.
Yes. Is there anything you can tell us about it?
Not really. I had an interest in mushroom at the time, but I had an experience that then made me change my mind. I don't want to go into details because I don't want to discourage anyone, but mushroom is not my focus.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But to answer your question, Tochukwu,
yes,
we have someone also even within the, actually we having working on something like that now. Dr. Stella, who produce mushroom, organic mushroom. That could be a conversation. You could send an email. I should be able to link you up with her. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
There's even somebody in Noan. There's somebody in Noan. They conduct the training too. I think Professor Labi, he actually trains on organic mushroom farming. But I know Dr. Stella, yeah, that's her focus.
Okay, I think that is for now the area I'll be very much interested
that you have,
in.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I would share, I mean, I'm sure he would share the resources with you.
Okay.
The people you can speak with.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful time.
Somebody is asking if we cultivate our spices, some of the ingredients, not all.
Yeah.
Please go on.
Yeah. So yeah, just to I really want to appreciate everyone for hanging on. To give some sort of what's next action. There are 3 things I want to bring to our attention. First, you should have received a link to join our network to be able to get more information easily for subsequent webinars like this under the Organic Farming Masterclass. But I also want to talk about the comprehensive masterclass, whereby you get to learn about the how of everything when it comes to organic farming, whether it's how do you get your farm certified, whether it's networking with other organic farmers, whether it's interaction with experts. We designed this. We have a lot of experts that have come to really contribute their knowledge for free without anything. The cost with this is because of the affiliation with Washington State University. So if you complete that program as well, you are actually getting also a globally recognized certificate with it. There are also other organizations that we are partnering with, which is also opening up employment opportunities. Because one of the areas is when you have this knowledge, it's create more opportunities, whether as a staff or whether as a farmer, whether as a trainee in different places. There's the link here. I'm going to send a link also to everyone. If you want to be part of the next cohort that we are opening up now, actually they're starting also next week as well. So you can indicate your interest to be part of that cohort. The next thing I want to talk about, last week we had a session on social selling, agribusiness social selling. So through the partnership with Mr. Daniel Adeniyi, he is doing a one-on-one coaching on that social selling for agribusiness, whereby you can actually take your business and guide you through how do you optimize your page, how do you develop strategies that can help you with social selling. You can also register for that if you're interested in that as well. Actually, the one-on-one session for this is starting I think it's next week as well. So it's a 7-day program, 2 days of teaching and 5 days of coaching, one-on-one looking at your business, and helping you with whether it's the visual, whether everything that is needed. So, and it's only taking limited number of people, I think just 15. And I think we already have a number of people registered. So if you are interested, this is the opportunity to do that. I also want to talk about the course also that Mrs. Showemimo is preparing. It's going to be on strategy. This is just a taste of, the overall, like a broad view. Each of those strategies that she talked about are, a whole class on their own. So we are, I know she's working on it before the end of the year that people can actually benefit from. So before we close, is Mr. Oshude, did I get the name right? You have a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
please. On the course, my name is Dr. Sude.
Dr. Sude.
Thank you for the session. Mrs. Showemo, God bless you. Yeah, for the course, I want to find out, is there anything on poultry?
Do you mean for
the master class, the organic farming master class that is coming up that you're talking about?
Yes, well, it's not just poultry, it's livestock as a whole. For instance, actually next week, we're going to be talking about livestock input. How do you produce, different aspects. So yes, there is a session on the livestock, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Osude.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, yeah. Yeah, any other question before we go today? I'm guessing Mr. Wolabi, I don't know if I can get the name, if I get the name right. Do you have any question? You are muted. If you are speaking, we can't hear you. Mr. Wolabi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I really appreciate the class. I'm happy to be part of the class here. I really appreciate it, sir. You have really done a great work for us. Like what I would like to ask, I'm an undergraduate student from the University of Abuja. I get to know about this from a platform that I am. Please, I would like to know more about this. Am I going to know more about it? Like I need a physical training because in agriculture, I don't really believe in theory because agric is full and is a practical. You need to practicalize it. Like you need to know what you can do. Yes, I don't know. Maybe how you're going to help us for physical classes.
Yes, there are physical classes as well. There are even internship. That's some of the things we've not really talked about.
Yes.
I know that Okwe Farms also even are taking interns. I also know Farmwella, even right now, I think is in the process of taking about 10 different interns within the next 1 month. But apart from that, there are also physical classes that will be available next week, which is one of the reasons why you want to join. If you are receiving an email, there is a network there that you can join. That's how you gain more access to some of this information. So yes, there are physical classes on how do you make compost, on how do you make biopesticides, on how do you set up irrigation systems. All of those classes have something that we have upcoming next month.
Please, do you have anyone for honey, like how to create hive and so on?
Well, not next month, but we have other partners that have other physical training on that.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Dr. Osude, do you have another question, or is it still the same hands that you were raising earlier on? Okay. What about Tochukwu? Is it the same, or you have another question?
Yes. Okay. Is another question, sir.
All right.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to ask this question again. I happen to be an agric engineer. That's what I studied in the high school. And honestly, initially I never liked the course, as in when I had my first year and all that. But when I actually moved into the course contents and graduated, I had a lot of interest, because that was exactly what I wanted to dwell on as an life after